York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
Good morning and welcome to the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK. It is a Tuesday morning, the 25th of February. I guess that makes it 2:25 mark. And I am Gary Sutton. Mark McKenzie is here this morning. Yeah, and a little excited about that. Well, not that much. 34 degrees here on Brooks Robinson Plaza. Brooks has just one glove on today. So
it was nice yesterday.
It was. It actually got very nice. I almost went to the golf course yesterday. I was thinking about it, but almost.
Almost.
I almost
What
went
stopped
to the
you?
golf course. Yeah, which means I didn't go to the golf course. But what stopped me? It was just about a degree or two under what I wanted. And I didn't have my clubs with me. I'd have to go home and get them, which is only like a 2-minute drive from where I was. And I thought, I have practice. In the old days, I'd have been out there practicing yesterday, and I just wasn't in the mood. I don't know what it was. I just,
Boy, look at you.
I know, turning into a sap. I mean, just really, getting old, I guess.
I'm considering maybe tomorrow, but I'm sure I won't be the only one with that idea. It's supposed to be sunny and a high.
Everybody's going to be out there tomorrow.
Low 50s, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, which means it'll probably be 60 degrees. Is what it means.
Is that what you think?
That's exactly what I think. I think it's going to go up tomorrow to that. Question of the day today: what do you think about this case of the Associated Press being kept off of the presidential plane and I guess basically out of their press conferences because they will not say that it's the Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico? What do you think about that? One word comes to my mind, and I have a little bit of an opinion on this morning, petty. I mean, that word comes to my mind, petty. I don't know that that's something that we need to be arguing over right now, but apparently the White House does. And not that we've never seen pettiness before, but I'm just saying this kind of, for me, hits a little bit of the, really? That's the reason? So I don't know. You call it anything you want to, but White House apparently thinks that, and to me, it's a little bit scary. Actually, it's a little bit scary for the standpoint of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Okay, because it's not like it's it's not like everybody switched over and said, well, it's Gulf of America, that's it, and everybody went 100% on it. It's like President Trump went, it's called the Gulf of America, and all of a sudden people are supposed to abide by that. I find that to be just a little bit petty. How about you? Now, some of you are going to say, well, President Trump said it, so everyone will do it. And that's not a good reason. That's not a good reason. I mean, to me, we have the right to talk about it and think about it. I mean, our country did have a certain Mexican influence. Like, for example, they own most of our Southwest and the West Coast. So, I mean, that was when it was named that. So you kind of think, well, it was kind of a natural thing, and it's been there all the time. So I don't know. I think what's to do over a name, and I don't see what the problem is.
I think if I read the thing correctly, what the AP said, another media outlets did the same thing. They said Gulf of Mexico, and then they had, I don't know if it was a parentheses, I don't remember that, but then they said that, President Trump calls it Gulf of America, or had signed something that said Gulf of America. So it's not like they didn't say it.
Yeah.
They gave context to it.
Well, it's like I named it, therefore the name has changed. That's not the way it works. Okay, it's not the way it works. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you think that's okay. But give me some thoughts on that this morning. I'm going to have that question up in a moment. I don't have it up yet. I was just phrasing it there and trying to put it in. So it'll be up at Facebook at Gary Sutton Show. That'll be up there. You can text the show today, 833-478-4729. I'm interested in places that are doing things to help the Duarte family, okay? Obviously, Andrew Duarte, we've heard about him and dying on Saturday at UPMC in a gun battle. And so many people are doing different things. And I will tell you about one. I actually know of two today. And when Jamie Norpell is on this morning, she'll tell you about something that's being done at a friend of ours, Aaron Anderson's church. We'll find out about that this morning. And they're also doing some things in terms of collecting donations to help the family and in memory of Officer Duarte. But today, I understand Moonlight Cafe up in Dover, small little Italian place, but a lot of people tell you it's one of the best in New York. I know Victor's out there. That's a great one, too. Of course, Bon Appetito is one of my favorites, and some other ones. But this one is a portion of their sales today. Every sale that's made, whether it's carry-out or in-house, is going to Officer Duarte's family, which is a wonderful thing. So if you get a chance to get out to Moonlight Cafe today, please do that. And coming up tomorrow, actually on Thursday, it'll be on Thursday because tomorrow's Wednesday. Normally, that's my day to go to Yanni's Gyros for lunch. On Thursday this week, I'm going to go instead. Okay, and the reason I'm going on Thursday, I just saw John last night. My wife and I stopped out late and just wanted to grab something. My wife wanted to try one of his chicken gyros and was not disappointed, by the way. So John is sitting there. He said, I'm so glad I saw you. He said, would it be okay tomorrow when I talk to you on our live spot to talk about something we're doing Thursday in honor of Officer Duarte? And, of course, they're located out at 310 Town Center Road out in the West Manchester Town Center off Laux Road out in West York. And Yanni's basically on Thursday, and I want you to make this a stopping place for you Thursday, sometime during the day. I'm going to be out there at 12 for lunch with some friends, and all of you are welcome to join me, and I'll be there for as long as you'd like. But the main reason that you come out there today is not for me or not see me. It is basically to come out and give and buy some lunch, buy dinner, make a donation at Yanni's, because it's going to go, 20% of every sale that day is going to go to Officer Duarte, 20%. They're going to have a place there you can put the cards in, sympathy cards if you have some of those, and also a place where you can actually make donations if you're not buying something, in terms of food, but just want to make a donation. They'll have that there as well, and that'll be all day long at Yanni's Gyros. So feel free to join me for lunch as we honor Officer Duarte's memory and his service. But the main reason you come out that day is really to help out his family and in his memory. And we do it every Wednesday normally. This week it's a little different. I'm going to be there Thursday. I hope you'll come out and join me. So I sent it out on Facebook last night. I hope you'll send it around to your friends. Get on out there. And I think it's 11 to 9 that they're open on Thursday. So please get on out there and support Officer Duarte's memory. So a lot of things going on today. We were talking last week, Mark, about a guy who just got out of prison in Baltimore after being in there for 30 years. And I'm reading a story this morning about another guy, and I thought it was him, but it was not. There was another guy.
Happens a lot, doesn't it?
Well, what did I say last week? Ray Crone said there's more Ray Crones in prison. A 51-year-old guy in Hawaii named Gordon Cordero
over the weekend,
got out of prison on Friday after spending 30 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. Sound familiar? Yeah. He was convicted of killing a guy in 1994 over a drug deal gone bad. But he always maintained his innocence, and DNA evidence, here it is again, which we didn't have back then, I guess, finally cleared him. One of the first things he did was to go out for a nice steak dinner, which was a little different than the prison food he's been eating. But he said the craziest thing he's experienced so far is everyone is looking at their phone all the time. Now, think about this. When he went in 1994, we didn't really have the proliferation of cell phones like we have the smart devices.
We had the little cell phones, though, the ones that, or the flip phone maybe, where it just made calls. It really didn't.
Well, he'd never even seen cell phone zombies because smartphones weren't a thing yet in 1994. As you said, we're just on the beginning of that whole thing. We didn't even have flip phones until 96.
Oh, so I stand corrected.
All he had was a beeper. He had a beeper. He told a reporter he got his first cell phone as soon as he got out on Friday, but he's not obsessed with it yet. He mainly just thinks it's weird how messages are always flooding in. Quote, it keeps on beeping, he said. But welcome to 2025, Gordon. Compared to the 90s, it's better. And probably in a lot of other ways, too. You're free. I mean, that's the main thing. So,
and now you can bet on your phone.
There you go. You can do all that stuff. You're about to get deluged with stuff. All right? And then as I was getting ready for the show today, I came across, you and I talk about food quite a bit. I just realized that the other day.
Think?
Yeah, like every day. Do you love any of these widely hated foods? Okay. Was the name. Now, it caught my interest right away.
Yes,
I looked
absolutely.
Okay, what are some widely hated foods? And do you love these foods? I will, of course, offer my opinion, and Mark, of course, will offer his, and probably a Mackenzie explanation of it. But
Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Sauerkraut on that list?
Okay, here we go. Let's see. No, not yet. Number one on the list. What would be the number one most hated food, do you think? If we just sat here in conversation saying, okay, think about number one most hated
food.
What would it be?
Limburger cheese?
Not on the list. Not on the top 5. Put it down. This is top 5.
All right. I have no idea.
Anchovies.
Oh, okay.
I think most would say, how many of us have said if pizza or a Caesar salad, hold the anchovies, right?
Yes.
Many of us have said that.
Yes.
13% love them, which means that 87% of them think those 13% should be in prison. Okay, I mean, I think that's what it means. Maybe I'm interpreting that a little too liberally. I don't know. Just a little bit. Yeah. If you eat anchovies on anything, you ought to be sent to the Gulf of Mexico.
I don't.
Seriously. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you ought to be put on the AP.
I don't think that I've ever tasted anchovies on a pizza, but certainly in Caesar salad.
Yeah, I've had it in Caesar salad, and it was
not
disgusting.
It's
there should be.
It's unnecessary.
I guess we have to eat them to keep them. It's like deer. You have to keep the population down. But
I see.
Yeah, I have no interest in being part of that. I just don't.
Yeah,
There's nothing about I'm like.
I don't think it makes it better.
I'm trying to think of ways I can eat anchovies tempura. I don't think so. No. There's no reason for them to exist.
Although smelts, if people are familiar with smelts, they're a little bit larger than an anchovy.
Yeah.
And
might as well be on the same list.
See, they're not quite as fishy. And it's just like eating kind of like a fish popsicle. How's that for
that made it get better. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, honey, there's the ice cream man coming up in the neighborhood. What's he got today? Fish popsicle.
Fish popsicle.
Great. Yeah, I'd be a kid running that window.
What's
have any
next?
fish popsicles? Okay, number 2, blue cheese. Now, see, I have a little bone to pick here. Blue cheese, but I like blue cheese. In fact, over at Yanni's, they have these French fries, and they're Greek French fries, and what they put on top of it? Blue cheese.
Really?
And it's, I'm telling you what, it's and they have these other seasonings on there. It's unbelievable. It's
I
really
go to
good.
a restaurant where they make their blue cheese dressing is homemade.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
it's very good.
How about this one? Number 3. And they have my total agreement on this. Black licorice. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah. Black licorice. 16% love it.
Deb is loves licorice of all kinds.
Well, really? And black licorice is on her list?
As a matter of fact, she had...
we have to talk.
She had a box of this. I don't remember where it was from.
Yeah.
But it was... there was a warning on the box. It said, don't eat.
Yeah, this sucks.
Like a lot of it.
Yeah, don't eat any of it.
I didn't need the warning.
I'd put a warning on the box. Say, throw this out.
Yes.
Keep out of the hands of kids.
Yeah, not a favorite.
Yeah. Keep out of the hands of adults.
Good and plenty.
Number 4. Oh, good and plenty, yeah. Oysters.
Oh, love oysters.
35% love them. I am one of those.
Yes, me too.
65% would never touch one. I love oysters.
Oh.
Little touch of, what's the sauce?
You're going to say...
I'm going to say horseradish sauce.
No,
yeah.
also the spicy.
Cocktail sauce. Cocktail sauce.
Cocktail sauce,
Yeah,
yes.
a little touch of that. And
I like the Rockefeller, oysters Rockefeller.
Oh, very good.
A little bit of spinach, a little bit of hollandaise.
And then this one was number 5, which seems a little harsh.
Bacon.
Pineapple on pizza. 48% count themselves as fans. 21% are indifferent. Only 31% said it's gross.
Yeah.
See, I'm not strong either way on that.
I mean, I would not do it.
No.
I would not eat it.
No.
But
just out of decency. But
that's not the worst thing.
When we come back, I want to find out what the worst thing is. This is the ultimate tease. I want to hear the Mackenzian explanation on this, all here on the Gary Sutton Show. We're at 6:90 Tuesday morning.
Now Forsythe at point, over to Nall's right side. Dumps it down, shot in the post. Turns rejected! Homasack again, and Pope's got it.
She's a one-man wrecking crew right now.
Give it back to Homasack. She'll knife in, fed it low. Wirt off balance, tried to save it in. Forsythe intercepted it. Now Gerber picks it off, drives in, layup goes. Gerber the steal, and then weaving her way down the lane. Suburban up with 2.5 left. 1 second left. Pope at half court will inbound it, and the celebration is on here at York Suburban. For the 3rd consecutive year, the Trojans are going to play for a district title.
And I believe they play Middletown for the championship, if I'm not mistaken. The Middletown girls, who were the runners-up in the Mid-Penn this year.
Correct.
And they're pretty good. I had a chance to do them, but they're pretty good. But I'll tell you what, Suburban Justice does a great job over there with those kids. And, of course, hats off to West York as well. Speaking of West York and Suburban, they're both in the boys' semifinals tonight in 5A. Central, of course, in the semifinals of 6A tonight against Chambersburg. I'm going to head over to that game. And, of course, that'll be right here on WOYK starting at 6:45.
Yep.
We've got York Catholic is in the finals of the 2A. Who else is out there? I think we've still got a bunch of
boys and girls.
Boys and girls, correct. So they're still in there. We've got
Eastern versus Berks Catholic on Thursday.
York Country Day is in the boys single A semifinals, and they're undefeated for the season. And I know I'm missing somebody. It seems like Eastern's
Red
there
Lion
somewhere.
and Dallastown girls on Thursday.
Right, there you go.
And Daryl left me a note. He says we could have as many as 4 games on WOYK depending on last night's results.
Yeah,
So-
Daryl said it to me in a different way. He said, don't call me late in the week. He said, I won't be around. I'm going to be doing nonstop because they're doing them during the day, too. I mean,
Right, yes.
Up at the Giant Center.
Well, the York Catholic game tomorrow afternoon is on at 2:30.
Yeah.
And then the girls is on at 4:30. Thursday, it's Eastern versus Berks Catholic boys 4A. That game starts here at 4:15.
That was the one I was missing, Eastern, because that could be one of the best games around. Berks Catholic is coached by kind of a legend, a guy named Snip Esterly, who before Berks Catholic became Berks Catholic, it was Reading Central Catholic and Reading Holy Name, and the two of them combined together. And Snip Esterly is the guy who got the job. He used to be at Reading Central Catholic, won a couple state championships there.
Wow.
So he's been around for a long time. Great guy. But, of course, I'll tell you what, the guys Justin Seitz doing the job over there at Eastern right now. Those guys have played great this year. That's going to be a wonderful game. So we got all kinds of stuff going on. And Central could be in – Central does not have a district championship. They have a state championship, but no district championship. And they are going to be looking to try to get there tonight with Chambersburg. Just strange. The last 2 years, they've been 5th place, both of the last 2 years. And, of course, last they won the state championship from the 5th place spot. But they're loaded. And, of course, they're playing tonight at home against Chambersburg, who's got a pretty good team. They got a kid named J.J. Kelly. Justavius Kelly is his real name. Wow. So that's why he goes by J.J., because nobody can say it. It has a half an hour to pronounce his name. But he's a great athlete. I think he's a high jump champion here in the state of Pennsylvania, but he is going off for a basketball scholarship next year. He's about 6'6". He's really good. But they play the game in much lower numbers. And, of course, we know Central's averaging about 80 points a game and just come at you all the time. So we'll see how that all goes tonight. We're hoping that Central gets into the finals there. Coach Jeff Hoke and his guys. So, as you said, all kinds of possibilities here during the course of the week. And listen to WOYK because a lot of these games, they'll all be on here.
Local.
Thank you. I was talking about that Associated Press thing. A federal judge on Monday denied a request by the Associated Press to immediately restore full access to the presidential events for the news agency's journalists. They're being kept away from that because they will not call Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America. The U.S. Judge Trevor McFadden declined to grant the AP's request for a temporary injunction restoring its access to the Oval Office, Air Force One, and events held at the White House. They're being kept out of that right now. The Trump administration barred this outlet earlier this month for continuing to refer to the Gulf of Mexico in its coverage after the president renamed it the Gulf of America. McFadden, a Trump appointee, said the restriction on, quote, more private areas, unquote, used by Trump was different from prior instances in which courts have blocked government officials from revoking access to journalists. Quote, I can't say the AP has shown a likelihood of success here, unquote, McFadden said. But he also described the ban as problematic and advised the government that case law in this circuit is uniformly unhelpful to the White House. In other words, you go further down this path, it may not help you out in keeping this edict that you have out there. McFadden said the issue required more explanation before ruling. Another hearing in the case has been set for next month. The AP filed a suit over the ban last week in which it named 3 senior Trump aides and argued that the decision to block its reporters from certain locations violates the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment protections against government abridgment of speech by trying to dictate the language they use in reporting the news. Quote, the Constitution prevents the President of the United States or any other government official from coercing journalists or anyone else into using official government vocabulary to report the news, unquote, Charles Tobin, a lawyer for the AP, said during a court hearing. The outlet's attorneys argued the AP would face, quote, irreparable harm, unquote, if the ban was not immediately lifted. Trump administration lawyers argued in a court filing before the hearing that the AP does not have a constitutional right to what they called special media access to the president, quote unquote. So an interesting case that is coming up there. And I, as I said, I find it somewhat petty to go out and do this. I think it's good to have all voices out there. I understand, I think a little bit about what the Trump White House is doing, and yet at the same time, I don't agree with it in this case. I think this is wrong. Just my thought. And you may have a different thought. Feel free to text your ideas on this or to go up and answer our question at Facebook at Gary Sutton Show. Then just go into Facebook, Google Gary Sutton Show, and you'll see it right there. Or you can text me at 833-478-4729, and I'll read your responses throughout the morning. And speaking of which, Ted Check is a former reporter here for the York Daily Record. He's now an information officer here with the county, and he's going to join us next at 6:35 to talk about this case and also the events that happened Saturday over at UPMC and how that was all covered. He'll talk about that when he joins us here this morning at 6:35. What else do we have about him, Mark?
Well, I want to say that the worst thing. How was it described? The food.
It was the worst foods ever, and you said you were going to put number one on your list.
The ketchup on a hot dog.
Really, that's it.
Yes,
that's so.
It's an affront to nature.
You know what? This is like the Gulf of Mexico and Gulf America all over again. Ketchup on a hot dog. You're banned. Get out of here. No. No. We don't do that here. Well, maybe. We'll think about it during the break. No, anyway, Mark has been clear about that the whole way through. I will say he's been consistent. So he has fought that low these many years.
Low the many.
Which is why he's been condemned to working with me. Yeah. So right there, that tells you the kind of penalty. It's almost too much. Anyway, we'll take a break. We'll come right back. Ted Check up next here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, where it is 6:30 on a Tuesday morning.
And he was the president of his Lutheran church congregation here in Wichita, and the people there were absolutely devastated. They could not believe that this was the same man who sat in their pews and was really known as a worker doobie, would do anything in the church. And then we have the other side of him, that when he put on the badge and became the compliance officer,
You mean the dog
he
catcher
really became
compliance badge? It sounds like Barney Fife.
well, I don't know if it was Barney Fife, but he really
there's
had
the
this
discussion
demeanor
between
for
Nancy
many people,
Grace and a
in which
reporter.
they didn't like
It was on this day, though. What are they discussing? It was on this day in 2005. BTK killer Dennis Rader captured by Wichita police and the FBI. And, it was interesting to hear how, he kept this serial killer aspect totally secret.
He was like a regular guy
Yes.
during the day.
Absolutely. A calm, mild-mannered person. He ended up being sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences.
How many people? It was like 10 people that he killed? Or?
At least. And I think there were confessions afterwards
Yeah.
of more. So
Serial killer who by day portrayed himself as some kind of compliance officer, and at night, or other times, I guess, did other stuff too. So there you go.
Well, was a church man and all that?
Yeah, all that. And I think he was an official at his church too, if memory serves.
I think that's what he said.
Anyway, welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show here, where it's 8:36 on a Tuesday morning, 33 degrees here on Brooks Robinson Square. And we welcome this morning Ted Check, who's a recovery newsman from over the years. And good morning, Ted. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Gary.
And he's
Great to be with you.
also an author. And you're also, now, I want to make sure I get this right, Ted. I think, are you the information officer for the county? Is that it? Or am I saying that correctly?
Very close, Gary. Yeah, Public Information Officer, PIO.
There you
Public
go.
Information Officer for York County Emergency Management and also 911.
There you go. Public information on it. I wanted to make sure I got that right, so that's why I had to ask you. I want to talk to you about two things this morning. One where you can maybe kind of put your former news reporting hat on, and the other one on the public information. Obviously, Saturday with the UPMC incident at Memorial Hospital, which obviously ended with the death of the perpetrator and also the death of Andrew Duarte. Never has information been more needed here in a situation in York County. Talk a little bit about that and the process of how you go about getting information out there, how you take the time on that, who's in charge of that, how you coordinate that whole thing, because I think a lot of people are interested in how that information gets out.
Sure, Gary. I just want to preface this by saying that I'm very limited with what I can say because
Understood.
the incident it remains under investigation.
Right.
But
I'm looking at a more general way that happens, I think, process rather than particulars of that, because I certainly don't want to put you in a position where you have to compromise anything. So, but it's more of a general process because there's a lot's happening at that particular point, and how you coordinate all that has got to be daunting, to say the least.
Right. Well, as public information officer, I am privy to information as it happens because of my connection with York County 911. So I knew, fairly soon after this incident began, and so immediately I was in contact with my bosses at emergency management,
Right.
and I was and then it's not long after that the media began calling me, and so we got a message together, and we started I started answering the media on that, and then I went from my work to the scene, and I then once I realized that the media was sequestered at the rear of the facility, I then went there to speak with them because I knew a lot of them had video cameras, and so I wanted
Right.
to give them something visual, just something to work with. And plus, I had the hotline numbers at that point,
Right.
For anyone who was concerned about their loved ones, if maybe they were in there at the
Right.
time. So I wanted to get those hotline numbers out.
It's kind of amazing, and most of us have never been in that kind of situation. I was reminded a little bit of 9/11. I was doing my show out at the fairgrounds in a mobile studio when that happened. And we were starting our show just at 9 o'clock, and probably just before 9, just after 9, the planes hit. And then, of course, everything else that started to develop after that. And I was reminded of how much information flies at you from 15 different directions, and you have to sort out what's true, what's not true. You have to make sure you're not saying too much, you're not saying too little. You're trying to give people a timeline. I mean, for people who have never had to process information that fast, it is a pretty, and I hate to use the word awesome, I don't use it very often, but pretty awesome thing to have all that coming at you. And at the same time, you're filtering what should go out and what shouldn't go out, what's true, what's not true, what's in progress, what's not in progress, is there a greater threat? I mean, all those kind of things. It's what's it like to have all that coming at you in that kind of moment there, Ted?
Well, I mean, I just appreciate all of the support that I have. It's not just me,
right?
But and a public information officer has to be attached essentially to the command, to whoever is in command, and so you have to have that relationship there with those who are in command, and I feel very fortunate that I had a career in journalism, because I was able to make connections during that time working for the Dispatch and the YDR. And those connections, those relationships have lasted, and transferred over into this new job. But Gary, if you don't mind, just real quick, I did want to say a couple of things. In general, here in York County, we're so fortunate to have such dedicated law enforcement officers, and also those who are in medical services, those who work in the hospitals, because all of them care deeply about those they serve, and I think this was a great example of that. It was very, very tragic, but it was also serves as an example of those dedicated people. Also, the outpouring of support from the community has been amazing. And then finally, yesterday, I was able to witness one of the officers involved in the incident as he stopped by York County 911 and with his family, and he was thanking the 911 dispatchers who were on duty at that time.
Wow.
He's thanking them. They're thanking him. There were hugs and there were tears. Like the dispatchers are looking at this guy, and he's bandaged up, and he's thanking them, and they're like, no, thank you, and it was just it was tremendous. It was great to witness.
We see, as you said, we're so proud of the people. 10 different forces, I understand, were out there. 10 different police agencies from various parts of York were out there that day. Of course, the state police out there as well. And it was amazing to watch people coordinate that. And, of course, the unfortunate death of Andrew Duarte is still fresh in our minds, and a lot of things being done to honor his memory. But, it's just kind of an amazing show out there of what happened. And then, people immediately wrapping a tourniquet around the one Northern Regional Police officer who was injured, and to make sure he wasn't bleeding out until he got to hospital, and all those kind of things. So it's amazing all in one place there, Ted. I know you've seen that over your career, probably in journalism as well. The very best and the very worst of humanity colliding all in the same moment in terms of intentions and what was done. And you get to see it all on display, don't you?
Yeah, definitely, Gary. That you put it the right way there. You really summed it up. Yeah, the best and the worst.
Ted,
sure.
I'm going to ask you to put on your old reporter's hat here a little bit. I've been reading this thing about the Associated Press, and yesterday a U.S. judge, basically, the Supreme Court's not going to get involved in the case, but basically the Associated Press is suing 3 members of the Trump administration for keeping them away from the president in the press room, on airplanes, and other kinds of situations where they might have special access to the president. And they're keeping them away because they will not say that the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America. Now, they do say it's the Gulf of America, or they do say it's the Gulf of Mexico, and President Trump is calling it the Gulf of America. That they've gone that far. And the outlet's attorneys argue that the AP would face irreparable harm if the ban was not immediately lifted. They said the Constitution prevents the President of the United States or any other government official from coercing journalists or anyone else into using official government vocabulary to report the news. On the other side, the Trump people have said, we don't have to give him special or give them special access to the presidency or to the president for different things. What's your take on this? I have my own thoughts, but I wanted to hear yours this morning from a guy who's been a reporter and access to various kinds of people. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I've been thinking about this, Gary. So if I'll put it this way: if I'm a fan of Leonard Skinner, I can follow them online. I can buy their music, but in order to see them at the York Fair, I got to buy a ticket.
Okay.
And in doing so, I agree to certain conditions. But if I violate those conditions, they can throw me out. So that was kind of what I thought of that people might relate to. The other thought is that Trump is making an example of the AP. It's almost as if he may have done this whole thing just as a trap to see if somebody would bite on it. If you don't do what I say, then this is the penalty. And it's almost as if he coordinated the whole thing and said, I'm gonna put this out there and see what happens. If anyone balks at it, then they get the hammer. Because at the end of the day, if he loses in court, is it any really big deal? He caused an inconvenience to the Associated Press, but it's no big deal to him.
Yeah, I'm going to be devil's advocate for a moment, though. I mean, the idea that a president can just say, well, you can't be on there, you can't be on the group that's covering me because you disagree with the name that I said was changed. This wasn't like everybody has gone around in total agreement and said, it's not like somebody is down there right now and say I got to change all their terminology to say Gulf of America. It just seems a little. It's very petty to me, but on the other side, it's kind of scary too. I do think it's scary for freedom of the press because I believe that you need some people there. The press, and albeit has not necessarily been that in the mainstream media, but the press should be the fourth estate. The press should be checking on the president. The press should be able to say certain things, and this kind of cowers them a little bit. I think. What's your take on that? Final couple thoughts.
Well, I think it is a significant freedom of the press and free speech case. I think. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like it's on the line here. There's a lot on the line. I don't know. I just go back to that the Associated Press is free to cover the president,
right?
But he's making the nuance, and he's talking about the White House and Air Force One. Those are the things that are kind of under his immediate control. If he does a speech at the York Fair or York Expo Center or whatever, he anybody can cover that. He's not. Well, I mean, I guess they would have to get clearance, but it doesn't sound like he's denying that. He's just saying these few things, that they're banned from doing. But it sounds like a significant case right here, possibly a landmark case. I don't know. You'd have to get a lawyer on for that.
Yeah, I don't know. The Supreme Court has basically said they're not going to take it up for right now, but they've also said, and the federal judge yesterday said, it's going to take a little bit more here. This is going to come up again next month, and I don't think this is one that's going away. So it's going to be interesting to see. Right now it seems like a petty kind of back and forth thing, but I think there's more to it than that. Ted, appreciate you being with us this morning. Looking forward to catching up with you along the way, my friend. Always good to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Talk soon.
Take care. Ted Scheck here, Public Information Officer here in York County, with us this morning. And when we come back, Mark has got a whole lot of news on the radar for you. It's 6:48 here on the Gary Sutton Show on a Tuesday morning on WOYK.
This is a Radio PA news update. Over the weekend, a deadly hostage situation inside a Pittsburgh hospital, an investigation now underway.
reports of an officer down as well as the shooter down inside the hospital.
On Saturday at UPMC Memorial Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, authorities say a man held staff at gunpoint inside, later shooting and killing a police officer. According to police, the shooter, Diogenes Archangel Ortiz, had a family member who had recently been in the ICU. They say he was upset. This is a Radio PA news update. Authorities in Pennsylvania suggest indeed the man who held staff at a Pittsburgh hospital at gunpoint before killing a police officer was upset over the death of a family member. 49-year-old Diogenes Archangel Ortiz was holding hostages in the UPMC Memorial Hospital ICU Saturday and threatening to kill one in the hallway when several officers opened fire. Officer Andrew Duarte and the gunman were killed in the shootout, and 5 others were wounded. Ortiz apparently targeted the ICU where his family member was treated and died within the last week, something officials said Ortiz had difficulty accepting. The memorial out hospital at gunpoint before killing a police officer was upset. In Pennsylvania suggest indeed the man who held staff at a Pittsburgh hospital held staff at a hospital at gunpoint and who held staff at a hospital at gunpoint before killing a
Strolling in the park, watching winter turn to spring. Walking in the dark, seeing lovers do their thing. Ooh, that's the time I feel like making love.
For those of you of a certain age, that young lady had one heck of a voice. She was also an unbelievable piano player at a very young age. Got a full scholarship, I think at the age of 15, if I'm not mistaken, to Howard University in Washington, D.C. Roberta Flack, 88 years old, and sadly, I guess back at 2020 mark, she announced that she had Lou Gehrig's disease. She was no longer able to sing, but had that wonderful, wonderful voice. A number of people passing away yesterday. A guy that some other people of a certain age will remember, Clint Hill. And you say, well, who was Clint Hill? Clint Hill was 93 years old. If you ever saw pictures of the Kennedy assassination back in 1963, and some of you will remember that as I do, Clint Hill was the Secret Service agent who jumped onto the back of the car when Jackie Kennedy was crawling on the back of the motorcade vehicle trying to get help for her husband who had just been shot and assassinated, obviously. And Clint Hill was the Secret Service agent, the first one to reach and leaped onto the back of the car and then covered her and the president up with his body in the seat, not knowing what else was going to be coming out of that. So he passed away yesterday at the age of 93. And, of course, that detail, much maligned over the years for, Secret Service people never want to have a president shot on their watch, and he was on that particular watch, but he was the guy who heroically ran and tried to do something in that particular moment. So 2 deaths there to remember.
Yes, no doubt about it. So let's switch it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about, how about movies?
Go ahead.
Like movies?
I love, not as much as you do, but I love movies.
Well, but
just watched Ben-Hur last night with Charlton Heston.
Just watched?
I just watched it last night.
That is a crime. What do you mean? How old are you?
No, I've watched it many times. But I go back. I love to go back and rewatch. I'm a guy.
Oh, I do
Guys
that as
never
well.
watch things one time.
Matter of fact, do you remember? Was it in Letterboxd?
No, I don't even know.
All right. See, what you should do is you should rewatch it.
No, I'm not going to watch it in Letterboxd.
In Letterboxd. No. See, because Letterboxd is how the director shot the film, and that's what
I don't care.
Well, no, that's what they shot it so you could see the full, like David Lean's.
There's
Lawrence
a reason we invented fire too, so we wouldn't have to eat things raw.
That's not a good analogy.
I thought it was I thought it was brilliant, actually.
As a matter of fact, if you watch it in Letterboxd, that scene with the horses, and is just amazing. It's just amazing.
Okay,
so, very interesting. Kind of long.
That is
though.
one of the great races of all time. That chariot race, though, is incredible.
No doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And Stephen Bennick's got what he had coming at the end as Masala.
Stephen Boyd.
When I say Stephen Bennick, Stephen Boyd,
enough.
not Bendix. No.
Yes, right. Let's see. Do we have time? Yeah, we do. Let's talk about the new actors.
Okay.
Because the Oscars nominations for Best Actor were detailed yesterday.
O'Brien is hosting the Academy Awards Sunday.
Wait, who is
that?
hosted?
Conan O'Brien is hosting the Academy Awards Sunday, coming a week after the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Based on the buzz in the previous awards, there are 2 frontrunners for the night's Best Actor trophy. The first, Adrian Brody, who stars in The Brutalist as a Hungarian architect rebuilding his life post-World War II. He's already snagged a Golden Globe and Critics' Choice. However, second is Timothée Chalamet, who played Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. He picked up the SAG Actor Trophy. Also nominated is Coleman Domingo, who starred in Sing Sing as a prisoner pushing rehab through theater. Ralph Fiennes starred in Conclave as a conflicted cardinal. And Sebastian Stan playing a young Donald Trump in The Apprentice. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
That Conclave movie I loved.
Yes, and Fiennes was particularly good because you would think playing a priest or a cardinal would be easy, but he was conflicted.
Right.
And you saw that in a number of instances, and he really did a wonderful job.
By the way, speaking of conclave, we might not be that far away from a conclave.
Yes,
obviously,
true.
The Pope is in very critical condition with a respiratory illness, and they're saying he's very close to possibly dying.
And she mentioned, Michelle mentioned the SAG win over the weekend.
Did I mention Madonna in the SAG Awards last week?
Yes,
Yeah.
Best Actor, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, the biopic on Bob Dylan. And have you seen any of the videos that they're floating on Instagram and TikTok?
I think I saw Madonna on one of them.
No. He said something.
You're fighting through this, I know.
Because he said something interesting.
Yes.
I mean, usually they thank all the other people and
we want world peace.
He said something, though, at the end of his remarks that was kind of interesting. He said that the award meant something to him because he is working to be the best. And
That's good.
This is how he measures it. And he wants to be the greatest. And you don't hear people talk about that,
No.
at least not in acting, maybe in sports, but not in acting.
A certain humbleness, if you will.
Yes, yeah,
Which
he
is
was
nice to hear.
being very honest about what he's trying to do and the
Right.
work. He put 5 years into this movie, and he says, I'm glad that I won because I put in the work and the time. So,
There you go. So kind of humbly confident.
Yes.
Is that a way of?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just taking a shot there. Did I mention about Madonna and the SAG Awards?
All right.
No, anyway, okay.
We
So,
got more next hour.
James Sanders.
News we might have missed.
Yeah, James Sanders coming up, 7:05. And we might throw in a little news we might have missed along the way. And Andy Bria, always shy and retiring, talking about the game last night and the ones coming up tonight and on this week. Andy Bria, color commentator here on high school basketball in this next hour. On WOYK, I'm Gary Sutton. It is 7 o'clock.
Exactly. They needed me. Oh, hang on. Oh, here we go. Where is it?
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on a Tuesday morning. It is 2/25/25. Yes, the 25th of February, second month of the year, and you can just keep going 2/25/25/25 forever and ever.
It's a dangerous day.
Why is it dangerous?
For what we do. Because it's actually...
Go ahead.
It's Quiet Day.
Quiet Day.
Which is also known as National Don't Utter a Word Day.
Really?
Which seems ridiculous if you think about it. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, quiet is different than civil, perhaps.
My wife says that to me every now and then when I'm at home.
Does she?
Don't utter a word. But I notice it's more than one day a year.
I was busy on Sunday, and I didn't see Deb much. And when I came back to the house, she said, I kind of missed your babble.
There's a compliment there somewhere, I think.
That's what I said. I said, I want to take that as a positive.
A real backhanded compliment there, I think. But yeah,
it's rubber.
I kind of miss your babble. Jeez. Well, thanks. That screams love. Right.
It's a rubber ducky day.
Yeah, I've never known what to do with those things after I got done with being a kid, like 2 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's World Spay Day.
I tell you something, just coming back to that for a second.
Yes.
They, at Columbia, they used to have a rubber ducky race down the Susquehanna.
Mm-hmm.
You remember those days?
I do.
And they put those little rubber duckies in the water?
Yep.
Yeah.
World Spay Day is Scampa a male or a female?
He's a male,
okay.
And so is our other cat that is
okay.
adopted us now,
right.
Mr. Tux.
Okay, so
yes.
no spaying in your household?
Well, we don't do it, but I mean, I guess they were both had that.
Food holidays, National Chocolate Covered Nuts Day, and I mean that is a Hershey bar, isn't it?
Well, it is, and
almond and chocolate.
Although I got to tell you. Hershey has stayed with that milk chocolate and almonds over the years. Yes. I would prefer they go to a dark chocolate and almonds. I don't know if they ever did that or not.
They have so many iterations these days.
Yes.
I think you would be best to go to Chocolate World and investigate.
I just don't, I don't know.
Yes, you consider it perhaps pedestrian?
I do.
Yes, your palate has
I've been there, though.
been...
well, the milk chocolate is just, to me, is just...
yes, it's a little too bland for your taste buds.
Yeah, that's kind of it. And so I just don't go with milk chocolate.
I get it.
It's somewhat childish for me.
It is also National Clam Chowder Day.
Okay, I like clam chowder.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm a big clam
New
chowder.
England.
Yes.
New England clam chowder.
Although is that the creamy or is that the Manhattan?
That is the creamy. Manhattan is the red.
Yes.
Which is, it's Manhattan.
Right.
It's not New England. You want the creamy. That sticks to your ribs. And it's interesting too that it's not actually made with clams.
Right.
A good clam chowder is made with quahogs, which are large clams, clams that are too big to be eaten any other way.
Right.
So you cook them and then you chop them up finely, and that's what you put in the clam chowder.
By the way, opening up our text mail bag here this morning, I mentioned about I thought it was kind of petty calling, keeping the AP out of the White House because of calling it Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico, and President Trump calls it Gulf of America. Somebody just texted in and said, I think it's petty, but not nearly as bad as the way the names of products were changed, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, et cetera, and statues destroyed by the previous administration. Touche. I think that also is petty and also lacking in historical context. So I couldn't agree more on that. I don't know if it's more or less. I'm not going to get into that. Somebody else said something here about, Mark. They mentioned Mark.
What?
They said, is Mark railing against ketchup on hot dogs from a baseball stadium?
That's true.
Someone ought to leave some Heinz packets in his briefcase. Great show, boys. Britain and York. So there you go.
Hey, Hey, watch the camera.
Well, I wrote back, Mark is a one-man crusade against ketchup on hot dogs. I can barely talk about it, ...
Watch the camera.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. There. He's throwing ketchup packets at me. Anyway, with that, we go to James Sanders this morning, our business blogger and local lawyer, and he's joining us this morning here to restore some sanity to the show. Good morning there, James. How are you?
Good morning. Hey, I got to correct a couple things.
Go ahead.
There's the famous Mr. Good bar, which is peanuts and chocolate. You
That's
can't
good.
just say it's almonds and Hershey.
Okay.
You know, and I have to agree with the ketchup on the hot dogs.
What?
Anybody over 13 that's doing that at a baseball game needs to go watch soccer.
Are you a card-carrying communist or something? What's going on here? What the heck is happening around this place? This is a conspiracy, I tell you. You can't fly on my jet anymore. That's it. You're done. You're off. So there it is. No. Anyway, good grief. No, great to have you in this morning. What do you have for us today?
So what caught my eye this week, and again, you know, Trump's giving me no shortage of topics to talk about, but I noticed there was a lot of articles last week on the United States Postal Service, and this is a loss-generating organization that has spanned over, gosh knows how many administrations.
Right.
You know, last year I think it lost something in the tune of like $9 billion, of which $8 billion of that was employee benefits and such. But the reason why it's interesting to me is there are numerous private solutions to what is being provided by the United States Postal Service. And those private solutions are making money. So there's proof that it can happen in the private sector. But you look at the Postal Service, and the reason why I brought up the employee health care benefits and the lack of innovation is it definitely says to the private sector, if you don't stay ahead of the times and you don't watch out what your competition's doing and you don't sit there and innovate, you're going to get run over. And by the way, if you're in the private sector, you don't have the federal printing press to sit there and back you up. So I think Trump is spot on with going after this because this has been a problem for years and years and years and years. And they always say they're going to get things right by changing out leadership, and nothing ever changes.
You know what? This returns to something here, and this is the age-old argument. And I'm in agreement with you on this one, Jim or James. Sorry, but this idea, and you mentioned something, the word innovation. Private sector goes out and innovates. Private sector goes out and leads the charge. Goes back to my age-old comparison. The lead sled dog is out there looking and getting in the right direction. All the other sled dogs are looking at someone else's behind in front of them. And so the lead dog here is the private sector. They are always looking to do better because they want to be more efficient. They want to make money. They want to be able to say we got the best product and service here. Government doesn't seem to care about that. Government says, let's just keep doing it the same way and we'll keep losing money because it's not really our money. It's the taxpayers' money when they should be saying, oh my gosh, we're losing the taxpayers' money. We have a sacred honor to be good stewards of that money, and we're not doing it, right?
Yep, 100%. And by the way, this is one of those things that I think that the federal government serves a purpose in. You know, it's infrastructure. I believe that communication is a key part of infrastructure here. And being able to get communication out to the far reaches of our territories or places where, you know, maybe there's not a FedEx or an Amazon. Well, I can't believe that anymore. But
or a sled dog. Or a sled dog. Yeah.
Or a sled dog. But I do believe that there is a place for the federal government to serve this. But the fact that you've got all these employees, you've got this, you know, it's toppling over itself with employee benefits and such. Just it needs to change, and again, I believe that Trump is right to go after this organization.
They also have a responsibility, though, to do it right, don't they? I mean, when did we when did we have such a low bar for the federal government? We say, well, you can have all this waste and stuff. We kind of understand it. Why should we understand it? Why should we? And listen, do I think Trump is doing everything the right way on the whole sledgehammer to this whole deal? No, I think there's probably some better ways to do it. However, the concept of holding people accountable, I don't think is wrong at all, and actually doing something about it, which no one has wanted to do in a long time in this country. And he's going out and he's going to the total other end of the pole and saying, not only am I going to do something, I'm going to go whacking and cutting and doing the whole thing right away. And again, I'm not sure that maybe there's not some mistakes in doing that. But the idea we should hold the government responsible. They are representing us in a representative democracy and a republic. When are we going to start to get that through our thick heads? And it's not okay to be wasting like they've been wasting over all these years.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the solutions that they've tried to implement in the past and the parties that they're listening to, especially the Postal Service Union and or any other unions that are involved in this type of thing, what are they going to tell you? Well, we need more manpower. Well, of course they're going to tell you that because they want to grow their membership. At this point in time, though, again, loss after loss after loss after loss. It's not sustainable. And in any private sector job, they would have gone bankrupt over time. But the private sector doesn't have a printing press.
No, they don't. And here's the other part of it, too. The idea is I don't think in some cases they necessarily want to find a solution. There's a lot of CYA with the whole bureaucracy thing. I feel, and if there's not, at least there's the perception that there is, that these people don't really want a solution to it because they're not terribly bright. They're not the best of the best, whereas in the private sector, the best of the best are out starting businesses. They're thinking about new ways of doing things. They're developing chips. They're doing all this stuff. They're the smartest people. The smartest people are not sitting there in the bureaucracy because they don't have to go out there and compete for a buck. They don't have to go out there and make things better. They can sit there and have the status quo the way it is, and it's just fine because it's not their money that they're putting the risk on in putting it out there like you see in the private sector, right?
Yeah, 100%. And look at the solutions that were put forth. I mean, FedEx with the spoken hub. You've got UPS again, and they have a union workforce. UPS has a union workforce, and they're making it work. Amazon launched in the last 10 years their own delivery service. I mean, you've got all of these organizations that are circumventing the federal government and did so in such a fast and quick fashion that it's just it needs to be adjusted and it needs to be addressed. And maybe it serves a different purpose and backfills for these other organizations. Now, I better watch my mailbox today because somebody's probably going to take a bat to it. But,
well, I was going to say, if you see your mailbox blow up today, things didn't go well, whoever's listening to the show. But you're right. I mean, the idea, this accountability, listen, I think, again, it's Trump doing it. So, Trump kicks down a door to a room and dares you not to know he was there when he leaves. And I get it. But this whole idea, I think that's where most people in the country say, yeah, we're in agreement. Changes need to be made. And no one has ever had the courage to really do that on this kind of level where you saw differences, where you saw things being done. And yet, where's the happy medium? Somewhere in between there where we can actually do something about this. Say government needs to be as accountable as the family is, as the individual is, because otherwise, at what point in time, and I said this the other day, James, at what point in time does the individual start to say, well, instead of government being the extension of the individual, are we the extension of the government? Do we start following the kind of bad habits and things the government has, albeit we can't print money to make up for our mistakes?
That's a great point, Gary, and I do believe that you see that on the fringes of society and the educational. But that's a topic for another day. But yes, I do think you see that when people become too reliant upon the handouts in the government dole, and that needs to be pushed back because at some point you need to have the ability to help yourself. You can help others, but you need to be able to support yourself and go out and make your own way.
Boy, I couldn't agree with you more, James. The idea that we are a country founded on the basis of the rugged individualist, the idea that you're supposed to be as independent as you can and let the government help you on the things you can't do. But we want people to be able to be independent. I worry that, that whole dependency thing, that's, again, a topic for another day, but that certainly is out there. James, great stuff this morning. Thank you so much. Always good having you on, and looking forward to talking to you again very, very soon. All
right, and hail to the mustard on the hot dog.
Oh, just put that somewhere else. Anyway, take care. Thanks, James. I'm getting ganged up on this morning by James and Mark. Anyway, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We got more news for you. And then at 7:35, Andy Bria joins us this morning, always shy and retiring. If you heard him on the game last night, he had a big West York Suburban Girls game last night. Tonight, he and Darryl have the Central Chambersburg game for the right to go to Hershey and play at the Giant Center for the district championship on Friday night. All straight ahead on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, where it's 7:19.
This is a Radio PA news update. Philadelphia police investigating the killing of a man inside a Kia Soul. After the shooting, detectives not sure if the critical to the prosecution of the suspected Gilgo Beach stage at a hearing on Long Island. 2 Heuermann to the murders of 7 women whose bodies. DNA of Heuermann's hair was recovered from 6 of the victims. Whole genome sequencing. Heuermann's Canada and Mexico will move forward as planned following a 1
And it seems like that's moving.
Expect additional detours and delays starting.
Rail lines will be detoured through the Allentown neighborhood to PRT officials say that
to the state again after it was held up by the Trump administration.
Fox Sports Update.
Shea puts it up, off the heel, tapped out. Minnesota pulls off a shocker against the Thunder. From 25 down, Minnesota wins 131-128, ties the largest come-from-behind victory in franchise history.
On FanDuel Sports Network North, the Timberwolves trailed the Thunder by as many as 24 points in the fourth quarter last night before they mounted a furious comeback against the Western Conference leaders. The T-Wolves scored the final 16 points of the fourth quarter to force overtime and then beat the Thunder 131-128, one night after Oklahoma City had beaten Minnesota. Detroit Pistons have their longest winning streak since the 2014-15 season. Pistons won their 7th in a row, 106-97 over the Clippers. Zach LaVine had his best game with Sacramento, a season-high 42 points. The Kings humbled the Hornets 130-88. Nikola Jokic with a career-high 19 assists. Nuggets beat the Pacers 125-116. The 76ers lost their 8th game in a row, blasted by the Bulls 142-110. First win in 7 games for Chicago. The Wizards snapped a 6-game losing streak with a 107-99 win over the Nets. The Hawks ended their losing streak at 3 games. Atlanta beat Miami 98-86. The Trailblazers edged the Jazz 114-112. Portland has won 12 of its last 17 games. Longtime owner of the Cleveland Guardians, Lawrence J. Dolan, died Sunday night at age 94. Dolan purchased the Guardians in 2000. 4 days after his 42nd birthday, 3-time Cy Young winner Justin Verlander made his first start for the Giants Monday. Pitched 2 innings, gave up a solo home run, struck out 1. Verlander entering his 20th Major League season. You can download the Fox Sports Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. I'm Jared Max.
Get more on the Fox Sports app and foxsports.com.
So there you go, a little Fox Sports update there. 7:24 on a Tuesday morning. Gary Sutton with you, Mark McKenzie. Andy Bree is going to join us this morning, 7:35. Kind of a shy, retiring guy. We heard him a little bit last night. You'll hear him all this week as he is no longer at home. He just travels now and does basketball games with Daryl. I saw some news this morning. It may not mean a whole lot. A couple things. Apple is creating is going to create 20,000 U.S. jobs, Mark, which is good. It's good news.
Sounds impressive.
Now, it will be mostly Gen Z Apple Store employees who roll their eyes when you can't remember your Apple ID. That's what's going to – I understand that's who's going to be, but
it could be.
It could be. I mean,
that also sounds like
it. It's a little shaky, shaky there. And I was in a Starbucks yesterday. I had a meeting with someone yesterday at a Starbucks, and I saw where Starbucks has laid off 1,100 workers.
That's not a lot.
1,100 workers. Now, here's how bad it got.
Okay.
I mean, I was out yesterday on Route 30, and I saw a worker at an intersection with a sign that said, "We'll deafen you with the espresso machine for food." We'll deafen, yeah. They were willing to work for food, but a little different kind of look there. You know what I'm saying? What's surprising is that they were all fired by Elon Musk. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, how did that happen?
So just a couple of little stories there that might have made some news. Yeah.
I think I have the answer.
Go ahead.
To, or at least partially the answer to the AP and the where are they barred from?
Oh, they're barred from the White House. They're barred from Air Force One.
Well, I think I have a way for
Starbucks.
them to get back into the White House.
Okay.
And it actually starts. It actually starts today.
Go ahead.
Tours are open again at the White House after being briefly stopped as President Trump and his family moved back into the building in January. First Lady Melania Trump issued a statement earlier this month making the official announcement. Tickets for the tours must be requested through members of Congress and are scheduled on a first-come, first-served basis. The White House website says the tours are self-guided and usually last around 45 minutes. The tradition of public tours dates back to the Jefferson administration shortly after he was inaugurated in 1805. To learn more about the tours, go to whitehouse.gov/visit. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Did she say self-guided?
I thought so.
What?
And if you're the AP, fake mustaches and bad wigs will help too. You can sneak on through and before they catch you. And yeah. So
how about some health news? February, not too many days left, but
it's Heart Month.
Yes.
This is House Call for Health. February is American Heart Month. According to the CDC, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the U.S. High blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, and smoking are key risk factors for heart disease, and nearly half of U.S. adults have at least one of these three risk factors, so early detection and understanding possible symptoms are critical. Health professionals recommend making lifestyle changes when it comes to the food we eat, staying away from foods with additional fats, sugars, and sodium, and adding more fruits and vegetables. Experts also encourage more physical activity because your heart is a muscle and it should be exercised. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health, I'm Lisa Brady.
And let's
Fox
use
News.
the word showdown on this next story because the Federal Office of Personnel Management notified workers they could ignore Elon Musk's latest DOGE directive, a reversal for the billionaire advisor to President Donald Trump, who sought to remove workers who didn't reply. I don't know how many people saw this over the weekend. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, had sent a blast email Saturday to an estimated 2 million workers via the Office of Personnel Management with the subject line, "What did you do last week?" The email instructed all federal workers to share approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished. Can you imagine if you and I were asked to do that, Mark? Oh, my gosh. Anyway, failure to respond, Musk wrote in a post on X Saturday, will be taken as a resignation. Now here comes the federal government saying, you don't necessarily have to go along with that. That's going to be interesting to see what that showdown looks like in the long run, won't it?
Well, let me, this, out of all the things I saw this morning,
Yes.
this story
Go ahead.
kind of blew my mind a little bit.
It takes a lot to blow your mind.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, check this story out. Can you imagine train robberies in 2025? Apparently, yes.
In one of the brazen robberies, the thieves cut an air brake hose on a freight train and made off with more than 1,900 pair of unreleased Nikes worth more than $440,000. Cops say they've identified at least 10 such heists and have arrested 11 people, 10 of whom were Mexicans in the United States illegally. The 11th is a Mexican seeking asylum in the United States. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Train robberies.
Well, and once they got him, now they're running like hell. That's what's happening. I mean, it's
with new shoes.
Or maybe they just said, just do it. Who knows? I don't know. What do you think? Just do it. And they believed it and took them at their word.
True enough.
Anyway, when we come back, another guy who's just doing it all week long here with basketball is Andy Brea, one of the best commentators you're going to find anywhere, and a little different style than most people. But I'll tell you what, he's right here with us. He's WOYK's color commentator on high school basketball, and he's going to look at all of what happened last night and what's going on the rest of the week, all here on WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show. It is 7:30.
Now Forsythe at point, over to Nall's right side. Dumps it down, shot in the post. Turns rejected! Homasak again, and Pope's got it.
She's a one-man wrecking crew right now.
There you go, and that was a little of the game last night. York Suburban win, I think it was 50-43 over West York last night. Am I correct with that? 50-42.
But that was late.
Yeah.
That was late.
So Suburban is now in the championship against Middletown. And I did the Middletown game, by the way, with Altoona for the Mid-Penn Championship. Middletown has a pretty good team. But York Suburban, I said earlier, just does such a great job with that crowd, and they've been there every year. But West York, what a great rivalry that's been all year long. Andy Bria here, who is the color commentator with Darryl Henry on our WOYK broadcast, the best in the area, I might add. And it's when these two guys get together, by the way, it's dinner and a show. It's dinner and a show. If I can't watch the game, I can't be there in person, I turn these guys on, and I grab my popcorn, a little extra butter, and I sit back and I smile. Because these two guys are the best. How you doing, my friend? Great to have you in this morning.
I'm good, but I want to get one thing out of
Go ahead.
Okay. The cheapest yellow mustard on hot dog, okay? I mean, really, back in the day when I was a young man.
This is from a Philly. This is from a Philly guy, by the way.
From a Philly guy.
Yeah.
Back in the day when Lincoln was president and I was 8 years old, I was a ketchup guy.
Okay.
But
converted.
I converted to but it's got to be the cheapest.
Do they even have ketchup on the streets of Philadelphia with pretzels or anything like that? You wouldn't even be you could be you could be beat up for that, I think, in Philadelphia, right?
Why does it have to be the cheapest?
I don't know. My brother Carmen, number 2 brother, said to me, that's what he said to me one time. It's got to be the cheapest yellow mustard. Yeah,
okay. No brand.
Huh?
Yeah,
no brand.
I got to tell you what.
It's all good.
You guys are never getting on my personal jet again. I'm just telling you right now. You think Trump was bad? I'm telling you what, man. I'm gonna make him look like a pussy cow compared to this. But, so anyway, what can I say? I can barely move on now. But anyway, great game last night. West York and Suburban girls. They've been going at it all year long, haven't they?
They've been going at it for a couple of years, and I tell you. It was, to me, it was like watching Hagler against Hearns. They were body blows.
Little dated reference there, but yeah. I'm
really?
sorry. I'm sorry. But I say that Hagler and Hearns, yeah.
Okay.
People go, who? It was like Ali Frazier. You'd have a better shot. Yeah.
Well, I know that, but I like the Hagler Hearns thing. But yeah, they went toe to toe from the opening tap, and Jess Kemp, I had the pleasure, the honor, whatever you want to call it, of coaching her when I was doing my Keystone games back in the day. She coaches just like she plays.
Right.
Jason Getz, he does a great job with them kids. You got Reagan Dowell on the other side. How about them jeans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? That's a basketball IQ, but they just went toe to toe. But the young lady you just mentioned has however you pronounce her name, and that child, Gary. She led the scoring 15 points, but that wasn't what she did. That wasn't her game. Me, I watch all the other stuff. The rebounding, getting the ball into the right hands, blocking out, working in the post. I mean, defensively, she was just a tiger.
Yeah.
They all were. That was a great basketball. And for me, and I know you, that gym was packed.
Oh, yeah.
And usually I complain, come on, York County, where are you when the girls are playing? You know what I mean? The boys' games are packed. The girls' games, not so much. That kind of that grates me a little bit.
So 6:15 on Saturday night up at the Giants Center, which is one of my favorite places in the whole world for obvious reasons. But I've done a few games there over the years.
Yeah.
But they're going to go at it with Middletown for the championship. So looking forward to seeing what they can do. Jess Kemp, of course, the head coach there. But this team really smart, really smart. Middletown's a little young. Middletown plays hard, and they love to press you, but they're a little young. I saw them go up 19-7 on Altoona and then get beat like 58-37. So we'll see what happens there. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to coaching, you better be ready to go with Jess Kemp because you can get it done. Tonight, you got to be excited tonight. Central, defending state champion. I was with them last year at the Giants Center. We won that one. That was a lot of fun. But they're going up against Chambersburg tonight, who is Sean Sheffer's team. He's been coaching 29 years over at Chambersburg. They got a kid named J.J. Kelly, Justavius Kelly, who is a 6'6", high jump champion in the state of Pennsylvania, going off on a college scholarship to play basketball Division I next year. They're a pretty good team defensively. They're always rough and tumble. They'll lock down on you, but I'm not sure they got the weapons to stay with Central tonight. Your thoughts?
if you turn it over, if you make a mistake against the Central boys, they make you pay.
Yeah.
You have to respect every possession. You have to box out. And, everybody talks about fundamentals. Boxing out, you have to box them out. They're so quick. R.B. Brown, Natal, Lair, Rill. I mean, I'm missing one. Come on, Andy.
Byron Pinckney.
Yeah. Pinckney. I mean,
they just come at you from every direction.
From every direction, and they're just so good. But they make you pay for every mistake. You turn the ball over, you're done.
The one thing that I think Jeff Hoke has done that's been brilliant this year, he's switched up his points of pressure in his attacks. He's added in like a 3-2 zone.
Right.
He's playing that 1-3-1 trap. I know last year we could never quite get it the way he wanted. This year he's got it the way he wants it. And one of the reasons is he's got Byron Pinckney, who's got a wingspan of about 20 feet out top. And the number of slow passes they make you make and the number of tips that they get on passes. And those things wear you out after a while. And I think that's what you see every game is they might be close for a while. Someone might be stick around with them. They might be down 8 at the half or up 8 at the half, whatever. And then the third quarter, all of a sudden, there are these runs. And they seem to just turn around in a hurry, don't they?
They do. And you're talking about Pinckney out front. Just think about the fact that on the left side of that 1-3-1, you got Penn Rill.
Yeah.
It looks like the old Jim Boeheim from Syracuse.
2-3 zone.
2-3 zone.
Yeah.
When them guys spread out.
Big, long,
the
lanky
guy
guys.
slapping a woman in the first row when he got his hands out. I mean, you just couldn't get by it.
One of the guys that Central was at, and I can tell you at the beginning of the year, he was not where he is now. Kyler Landis has become another 3-point sniper off the bench. So just in case you thought it was safe to go back in the water,
Right.
Here comes this kid running out there, standing in the corner, waiting to get the ball, and it's like money.
He had 4 or 5 the other night.
Yeah.
And when he catches and shoots in rhythm, it's pure. I mean, this kid can shoot. And think about this. Think of all the guys in the Tal and Brown, like I mentioned, and the rest of them. Hoke says he's the best shooter.
Yeah, I
pure
know.
shooter on the team.
Which is frightening.
That is frightening.
Because R.B. Brown can shoot it with the very best of them.
Yes.
I mean, he is he's just one of the best. And then you've got a guy that people don't realize is so good is Doug Lair Jr.
Yes.
He doesn't score a lot of points, but he is not the guy you want to meet in the backcourt.
No.
He is on you chest to chest all the time and a tough little competitor. And he's the guy that distributes and makes his team go for the most part.
Oh, he does. He's a great facilitator. Defensively, they're always in the right spot. Their help side defense is so good.
Yeah.
You come from one side and you're just running into 2 people and they just take it away from you and they're gone.
I know there were times last year we thought we just outscored people. Then at the end of the season, we got pretty good defensively. But this year, started out of the gate, they were pretty good defensively. And that's the difference with this Central team. They might in some ways be better than last year because they can make you change with the various kinds of defense that they play. And they speed you up and they slow you down. And it's just kind of amazing to watch. But Coach Hoke and his staff have done a great job this year. Let's talk about some of the other games coming up this week, too. What are some of the other ones you're looking forward to doing?
Well, look at Eastern last night.
Yeah.
First off, let's talk about the YAIAA. We got a whole lot of games this week.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is awesome for the league, you know what I mean? But Eastern last night, double overtime against Big Springs and lost their big guy with about 2:15 left. And I talked to Coach Seitz later on last night, and he said, they just kept coming. That's a surprise that they get there again. You've got the first time ever, I believe, you have Red Line girls against Dallastown girls in the biggest classification, whether it be back in the day when it was 4A or now 6A, going toe-to-toe in a championship game. That's great for YAIAA.
Couldn't agree more. Tonight you got Suburban and West York, but the boys' side tonight,
yes.
Suburban playing Exeter, who's really good. Don't get fooled by the 14-10 record. They are rugged to play. Suburban playing them tonight over at Suburban High School, though. And Hershey, who's really, really tough, is going up tonight against West York, and that one's at Hershey High School this evening at 7 o'clock. Hershey 20-3, and of course West York coming in there tonight at 19-5.
Don't count that West York bunch
You like
out.
that team a lot, I know.
I'm telling you what.
Garrett Bull's crowd.
You would so much enjoy watching them. They are fundamentally so sound on both sides of the court, okay? Whether it be defense, the way they play that switcher man-to-man, and I've said this multiple times, reminds me of old York Catholic Mike Kesey stuff, okay? On the other side, I talk about respecting the possession all the time, and they do. They'll make they won't take the good shot. They're taking the best shot out of their offense. And they just hound you, and they're, like you said, Garrett Bull, one of the best around. They can make you play ugly. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, and they had Central on the ropes the other week. I mean, they had them
absolutely.
right at the wire. And that was one of the great sportsmanship things we've heard about all year. I listened to you guys. I had tears in my eyes. Tell people about that. You were talking about that.
Grady,
I thought you had tears in your eyes.
I did. Grady. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. For my age, it's bad.
Yeah, I'm trying to
think. One of the twins.
Yeah.
Anyway, with 0.5 seconds left, he goes to the line down to
Central.
Yeah. Got fouled on a 3-point shot. So he's got 3 free throws, 0.5 on his clock. Clangs the first one, clangs the second one, and then tries to miss the third one. Okay. After the game, to a kid, every one of those young men came over, put their arm around kid from Central.
Yeah.
Put their arms around this kid. I did. I had tears in my eyes because we don't see enough of that anymore.
Yeah.
You watch the NFL and stuff like that anymore. You don't see guys, most guys from the opposing team helping guys up like we used to 25 years ago. Okay. That was so, to me, that sportsmanship, we missed that. That was so wonderful. And I called Garrett Bull the next day and I said, Garrett, you tell Grady that those 3 free throws does not define his career. I've watched him for 4 years.
Right.
These kids can play, and Garrett Bull does a nice job with that team. They're frightening to play.
They're very disciplined. They're very disciplined.
On both ends.
And the beauty to what they do is their offense is their defense.
Yes.
They play great defense, but their offense, when they have the basketball, you don't. Guess what? If you're a little itchy and you start to jump out in a lane or they'll just nail you with all kinds of good fundamental basketball.
Yes.
You mentioned about Berks Catholic and Eastern going up. That's going to be at 4:30 coming up on Thursday night for the championship. You'll be at that one. And Snip Esterly over at Berks Catholic has been there, I think since about the 1840s he's been coaching. He coached Reading Central Catholic before that to a few state championships. And then when Reading Central Catholic and Reading Holy Name got together, my friend Lloyd Wolf used to coach over Reading Holy Name, who has since passed. He got the job over there and has done a great job with Reading Central Catholic. They come into this one 19-4. So that could be another great matchup, but Eastern fully capable of winning that championship as they did last year.
That man in the middle, and he is a man.
Mark Swamley.
Wamsley,
Wamsley, right. Curtis Wamsley.
And he is a man. Brady out on the wing, and every one of their players, and Justin puts them in the right spot, him and his staff, they do a nice job with that bunch. They're fundamentally very, very sound.
You got York Catholic in there at 2A, the boys in a championship game. Didn't have to win a whole lot of games to get there, but they're in the championship nevertheless, right? And then, of course, you have York Country Day, who's still undefeated in the semifinals now, and they had a tough one the other night, won 47-42. It's probably one of the closest games they've had, but they may well show up in there as well, and then some of the other girls' games throughout the course of the week. You got a busy week, my friend. Looking forward to hearing you.
I get to watch your Catholic girls again up there. Kevin Banco's probably the most decorated coach as far as district titles and
one of the best assistants you ever trained, right?
You did not hear that.
I know.
Me,
well,
okay?
you won a state championship yourself, and you built that program when it was at death's door, and had a great run.
I just think it's great. Doubleheader Wednesday, tripleheader Thursday, and we could have, depending on what happens tonight, we could have as many as 4 games on Friday.
And that doesn't even count the teams that are coming up through the consolations and are heading to states who've already qualified. So you're going to see York County teams all over state. You might never come home again.
I told my girlfriend I maybe see her a couple of weeks from now.
Next month.
Next month.
Late next month, by the way.
Opening day of trout season or something. I don't know.
There you go. Hey, Andy Bria just does a great job here at our broadcast with Darryl Henry. And thanks, man. Really appreciate what you do. And you give so much color and fun to the game. And I think that's what we have to keep on having. And it's great to listen to you. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks so much. Andy Bria here, and you can hear him tonight, 6:45, along with Darryl Henry, as they bring you the Central Chambersburg game tonight for the right to get to the 6A boys final at Hershey, one of many York County teams that are going to be in there this week. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more. Mark's got more news under the radar for you. It's 7:49 on a Tuesday morning here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Back after this. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show, where it is 7:53 here on a Tuesday morning, the 25th of February, and we welcome in Pastor Tom Almanza, who serves two purposes. He has about four purposes. He's a father of 5 girls. He's, he's a pastor at my church, Greater York Baptist Church, where he does a great job. He's the head of Lemonade Property Services, a small business. But this morning, I want to talk a little bit, especially we look back at the last few days and what happened on Saturday at UPMC, Tom. One of the things that we think about in society, we end up talking about why, and we do all that. And I'm not sure we even ask the right questions sometimes on that, but we do it because as human beings, we want answers, and sometimes they're hard to find and we lose control. But the word forgiveness kind of came to mind here the last couple of days, and, trying to forgive people and trying to be better with people, more compassionate with people, maybe more understanding of people. I don't know why those words were kind of sifting around in my head the last couple of days, and I wanted to throw it to you this morning, maybe putting your pastor's hat on. And how do we process all of what we've seen the last few days? Maybe that's the statement that I want to make, and the question I want to ask. So your thoughts on that this morning?
Sure. First of all, I would like to start off by offering my prayers and thoughts to the police officers that are friends with Officer Andrew Duarte, the families and the friends of him as well, and to our community as a whole.
Right.
That definitely has, shook us up a bit. And forgiveness is a very hard topic. I don't care how you look at it, especially when you have been the one offended.
Yeah.
When you are the one that has been hurt. But all of us would know the Lord's Prayer. And when the Lord modeled, prayer to us, he said, in there, forgive us our trespasses. Mm-hmm. Forgive us our debts.
Right.
And I think it's a very interesting look at it because ultimately forgiveness can only be done. It can only be given when you have been forgiven. We have to realize how much we ourselves have been forgiven by God. And when you recognize that, that is the fruit of recognizing that we have been forgiven, is that we forgive our debtors. Wow. We forgive those who trespass against us. When I look at the example that Christ gave us, he was hanging there on the cross and he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And here's a man on the cross, God in the flesh, who never did any wrong.
Right.
And yet he's forgiving. We who have done wrong and have been forgiven have a hard time forgiving. And again, there's really no one's pointing a finger here, Gary, and saying, well, it doesn't matter what wrong you've done, blah, blah, blah. You just need to forgive. That's not the heart or the spirit of this. The heart or the spirit is to honestly, inwardly reflect upon how much God has truly forgiven us. And when you do that, the fruit of it, the byproduct of it, is that you will learn the process of forgiveness towards others, even towards those who have done heinous things.
Great point. Judgment is. I remember years ago when the shooter shot up that church down in South Carolina, and he actually went in to like the Sunday school class before he actually went outside, got weapons, and came back in and killed people. He said, I couldn't believe how nice these people were to me. Later on, because he was not shot at the scene, he's still in prison, and he went out and he came back and shot him. He said, I almost didn't do this because these people were so nice. And you sit there and you ponder that. And you say, and then afterward, the people at that church said, we forgive him. And you think, wow, how do you do that? Because but there is, again, that message that if you already believe you've been forgiven, the ability to do that for others, even in the most heinous situation, is somehow easier to do, if that's possible to use that word. About 2 minutes left. Thoughts on that?
Well, I really believe that the more you know about who God is, the more trust we would put into the plan of God. And while it was never his intent that evil be done, God does know how to take evil situations. And he knows how to take the work of Satan in this world and the work of demons and the work of evil people. And he knows how to transform that situation into good. And when we start recognizing that God has not been taken by surprise, when I put down my thoughts and not lean in my own understanding and just acknowledge him and let God have his way in my life, we'll be able to do the things that we once thought impossible. And sometimes when we're sitting on the outside looking in, like that situation you mentioned, I believe it was in North Carolina, and I remember just before I moved to the Pennsylvania area, there was that Amish family shooting that took place, and they forgave. You know, these are people that were outside to me, and you look at that and you're like, wow, they forgave. They forgave that shooter.
We have to end at that point today, but that is what people do. They forgive. Tom, appreciate it this morning. Thank you for getting in on that and putting some real thoughts there for us. We really appreciate it, my friend.
Absolutely, and I forgive you for cutting me off there. So
we'll talk about that later. Anyway, the check's in the mail. All right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it as always. Coming up next hour here on WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show, Eugene DePasquale sorting out the petty and what matters, and Doge all straight ahead on WOYK. It's the Gary Sutton Show right now. It is 8 o'clock.
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome to our final hour here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK on a Tuesday morning where it's 8:05, 36 degrees on Brooks Robinson Plaza. And this hour brought to you by York Computer, formerly York Computer Repair, but now York Computer. You can check them out at www.yorkcomputer.net. It feels good to have peace of mind with your computer. You can call them at 717-739-9675. They're located right out there at 2069 Carlisle Road in York, PA 17408. And it's the only place I know to go to get help. And anything having to do with your computer, go to York Computer, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. And you're going to be listening to Walt Oakham a little bit later on in the show here in this hour, brought to you by York Computer. Well, welcome back to WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show. And we welcome this morning Eugene DePasquale, former Auditor General here in the state of Pennsylvania. And Eugene, wanted to talk about a couple things with you this morning. I guess the first thing is I'm looking at the whole political scene nationally here. And I say, first of all, I love that Donald Trump and his administration want to make us accountable and efficient. I think that's a great thing to start with. You were in that business as Auditor General. And yet I look at things right now. I look at the international markets. Everybody seems to be doing well in Europe and so forth. Our stocks are maybe, not the stock being down, but, we're not doing as well right now in the stocks as maybe we would have expected to do. We're not doing as well in the economy as we would expect it to do. And I think one of the things people are looking around is they don't see the vision that President Trump maybe sees right now in this whole idea of bringing about accountability and efficiency. And the whole idea of tariffs is really, people are saying, is it really good for our country or not? We have a lot of question marks at the moment, I guess is what I'm saying. I wanted to get your take on that this morning. Intent good, maybe way too much going on right now, and we're not quite sure where it's all heading. Your thoughts this morning, Eugene. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. All is well. We're certainly getting a little warmer here, so hopefully spring is getting closer. So overall, I mean, when you look at it, sometimes whether it's a lot of things this happens in life, but certainly in the presidency and politics, sometimes the rubber meets the road. And on the campaign trail, I really believe, and this isn't to take away from the other issues, I think immigration was a factor. Not going to sugarcoat that.
Right.
I think some of the other factors, transit, et cetera, woke, those were all factors. But to me, if there was no inflation and people felt good about the economy, Kamala Harris would be president right now. And what you're seeing right now, I think, is Trump won on the economy in part, not all, but in part. And people are still feeling frustrated by that. And I think where this comes into his behavior right now, and that is, I think the immigration stuff, again, I think he's on the right side of the public with that. But I think when you see that and some of the firings and DOJ, and again, some of that could be good, some of that could be bad. We could go into that minutia. But the average person goes, that's not actually helping my life right now. They're still feeling frustrated. And then when you see with the markets, one thing, Trump, I think he'd be the first to say he's a disruptor. But sometimes these markets get spooked by what they would consider erratic behavior. So I think you're seeing some things where he's on the side of the public, some things where the public may not be on his side. But the overall feel is prices still aren't down yet. Is that unfair to say a month in that that's his fault?
Yeah.
Of course it's a bit unfair, but hey, welcome to politics.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And you have the whole thing with Ukraine going on. You've got China and our situation there, how we're dealing with Russia right now. And there's a lot of things on the plate, but, he wades into that. I mean, he seems to love that kind of thing, and he goes in after it, and you say, okay, well, so be it. But by the same token, I think one of the things that bothers us a little bit is the idea of you get a lot of mixed messages being sent right now, and I think that's it. One of the great places that he's done a wonderful job so far has really been down at the border. I mean, you can hear crickets down there compared to where we were at before, and people are heading back the other way, and there has been a noticeable change in what's going out there. So you can say, well, he's had great success there, and yet by the same token, then trying to deport people in the country, that also is met with, well, we don't like to see those faces in those situations, and yet at the same time, we know maybe it's not helping the country. So you got all this stuff going on at one time. It's a lot for people to digest here in the country.
Mario Cuomo said, what was it, you campaign in poetry and govern in prose or something like that. I forget the exact quote, but it's something like that because, yeah, you're right. Like, the people do feel better about what he's done at the border, but at the same token, there may be a guy on the street that's working hard, been here for a while, that they didn't want to see deported because that person isn't a criminal, and it's because it's actually in the real world, it's complicated. I think some of the stuff he's trying to do with Russia and Ukraine is trying to get to a peace deal. But it does bother a lot of people that he does seem to side with Russia a lot. And I'm not talking about Russian agents and all that nonsense.
Right.
I'm talking about, it does. Now, is that because he's strategically thinking, I got to do this to get Putin to the table? Maybe. But it does for myself, like when he said Ukraine started the war, I'm like going, oh, come on, Mr. President. They did. Ukraine didn't start that war.
Russia started
now,
the
is
war.
that a strategy to get Russia to negotiate? And if that's the case, hey, look, I'll applaud at the end if that's what it is. But it bothers people when he does stuff like that.
Well, and a lot of people never read The Art of the Deal. I happen to have read it years ago when he was doing it. And it's like it's his governing tool. I mean, this guy,
that's right.
He leverages constantly. He does things constantly. And yet, for a lot of us, it terrorizes the heck out of us saying, I don't understand how that works. But now there are people who are trusting in it totally. I don't trust totally in it all the time because I don't understand it totally. So I sit back and I'm a little uncomfortable with the way he goes about it. And yet he has achieved certain results. But there are other results now that we're saying, well, we don't see I guess the fact that we don't see the whole picture, Eugene, is what makes us uncomfortable.
Right.
I think he has a look at it that most people don't see. And he is a one in a lifetime entity. They're going to write books about him for years.
There's no question. Look, here's where I think, and I think you and I are on the same page on this. And there's probably things I know that make you uncomfortable about him.
Right.
Everything is a negotiation.
You've made me uncomfortable for 30 years, my friend. So and I never make anybody uncomfortable. I'm sure. Right. No. I think we all can say things that make people uncomfortable.
No question.
And we can all disagree, but we can do so. We're still friends after 30-some years, so I appreciate it.
100%.
Yeah.
Everything he does is a negotiation. Everything.
Exactly.
And his strategy is, and you talked, and the idea is that you go in and you ask for something abnormally ridiculous.
Right.
All with the idea that in his world, you get back to a sensible place. And I have said this, I think I've said this on your show. I think President Obama made a mistake in some of his Middle East negotiations.
You did.
He started at the reasonable position, and both sides viewed that as a sign of weakness, where I look, they go, that's the right position, but you can't start there. And Trump would say, no, you've got to go in there and say, we're going to bulldoze this and nuke them, and we're going to nuke hurricanes, and then try to get the sensible position where you get a deal. The problem I have with it is in some areas, and I think particularly international affairs. Look, when you're negotiating with Congress, I get that. I want $100 billion cut. They say zero, you get to 62. That makes a lot of sense. I actually think his strategy probably plays well with the Congress.
Right.
But I don't think it plays well with international affairs, where they don't view the world the way we do, and I think it can lead to problems.
You have to understand some of the subtleties.
Where I'm the biggest concern on that.
Yeah, and we watched Governor Shapiro come out. He's like any other governor. He's going to come out and say, "Here's my wish list of all the things I want in my budget." Okay, boom, here you go. And of course, then the lawmaking body, in our case, the State House, or in the case of the federal government, the Congress goes, "Yeah, right, okay, fine."
Right.
Yeah, so now we're going to sit down and we're going to negotiate back to the middle, and that's essentially what you eventually do. And you say, "Here are the things we'll approve. Here are the things we won't approve. Here's the monies we're going to let you have. Here's the monies we're not going to let you have." So you're right, and I think most people, and Trump is maybe the master. He'll go out and say, "Here are all the things I want. Okay, this is it. This is the only way I'm going to do it. It's the final thing." And then you find him negotiating little by little along the way to get to that middle ground, because you have to. You're not going to get anything done otherwise. And he knows that he's got 2 years to get stuff done right now. We heard Governor Shapiro say the same thing. I like to get stuff done. And he doesn't say it quite that way, but it's I will give you the civilized version. Yeah. But the point is, I think what we want to see more of, and we want to see the vision. It's like looking at a jigsaw puzzle and there's about 50 pieces missing. You're going like, I don't see what the picture is here yet. And I think that's where we are.
Well, Gary, let's put a pin in that because I think it's a good point. He may have a vision on how these tariffs that he's looking to impose,
right,
he threatens and pulls back, is actually designed with a long-term strategy to help U.S. manufacturing. Okay, if that's the case, I want to say, boss, lay out that strategy because otherwise it just looks like you're just trying to play politics because you're mad at Canada on something,
right?
You know, or and again, I want to say this: that's what it looks like, and I say,
the perception.
Look, that's just going to jack up prices. But if there is a longer-term strategy, there's nothing wrong with him actually laying out a vision where, hey, look, I want to put these tariffs on because I want to give our U.S. manufacturers a chance to get on their feet, et cetera, and I'm doing this break to help them, and I want to try to move this in the tax code. Lay it out so we actually can see that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's just going to get blamed for the higher prices.
Right, and I that's where I'm at a little bit. I want to see a little bit more of the explanation and because where I think to some people it looks like, well, I'm going to throw this off the wall and see if it works. I don't think that's what he's about. I think he does have a vision of what he wants. I just don't see it every time. And as a citizen, I think when we elect our representatives, we elect them to represent our ideas and to say, okay, here we go. All right. Okay, so tariffs. So you're going to help my industry here in the country that I happen to work in. All right, explain how that works. And I think that's where we're going. The whole DOGE thing. Okay, you're going to go in. Listen, government efficiency, government accountability, you got me. I'm with it the whole way with the intention. But now is the intention being carried out in a way that we can get results over the next 2 years, which I know he has to do because, you know, midterms are coming.
And Gary, is it real? One thing I was saying,
and is it real? Yeah.
Is it real? You and I know there is waste in these agencies. You
Absolutely.
and I know that. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or you and I know that. And I've said this publicly and privately, even though I'm not thrilled with, again, the style, but then you and I are different than Elon and how we go about things. But if you have those things, I say come to the Government Oversight Committee, which is Republican-controlled, and bring the receipts. Actually get them, show them this is what is actually happening with it, as opposed to just going to Twitter. And I know you got to, or X or whatever we're calling it now, I know that making the PR game is part of this, but there is a difference between there is money being spent on a program that seems like waste, but we don't actually know if it is. Because we want look, the movie Independence Day, where they said to the president, "You don't really think we spent $800 on a hammer, do you?"
Yeah.
Like there's money in some of these Defense Department budgets that might be talked about publicly. So sometimes it's like, let's actually have a real conversation about this. I think they're spot on that there's waste there, and I think there's probably been too long that we haven't had someone shaking the trees there.
And I give him credit for going in and wading into this, man, where nobody else has had the guts to really do that, and these guys do it blatantly. But again, it's kind of like reminds me of a guy like a great rusher in football who wants to gather up everybody and eventually get to the guy with the ball. You know, you're going to gather up all these guys, and you say, well, are all of them guilty here? Are all of them guilty of having waste? It's one of the reasons.
One thing I want to add,
Go ahead.
Gary, because there is, again, I'm sure I did it as Auditor General. There's waste out there. We know it. But I do want to say this, and this may not be the most popular position. Federal employees are not bad people. They're just like the regular part of society. There's good guys, there's bad guys, there's good women, bad women, all that other stuff. Look, if the program's bad and we want to get rid of it, then treat it and get rid of it. Work with the Congress, get rid of it. I'm not going to complain about that. But don't start bad-mouthing these people as being lazy and stuff like that. If they were doing the job they were asked to do and the job is no longer necessary, then fine, get rid of it.
That's it.
Let's treat these people as human beings.
Couldn't agree with you more. I was doing that the other day on a show and talking with people, and I said, no one is bad-mouthing these people. It's like, it'd be like bad-mouthing people who are trying to get into our country illegally. There are a lot of good people. Okay,
right, that's right.
But if you're getting here illegally, you're doing the wrong thing, and things are being done.
Right.
And so the idea of, is it going to be pretty all the time? No, it's not. But let's not make it even worse by making these people look bad, because they're not. They're not bad people. They just happen to be doing a job that maybe they don't need to do right now. And if we could do more with less, so be it. I know you were in that business for a long time and trying to see that as well. Eugene, always good talk with you, man. I really appreciate it. Good look inside things. We'll keep on doing it as we try to figure this all out as we go through and see where it all goes. But as always, my friend, have a great week, and I always appreciate the conversation with you.
Hey, You got it, Gary. Thanks for having me. Have a good one,
Thanks, Eugene. Eugene DePasquale was here on WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show. 8:19, we're going to come back with some more news, maybe a couple pieces of news that you never know. It might be right, might not be, but we always like to have a little fun with it, too. All here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Back after this.
Wait a minute, Cassius. Let me ask you this now. You told me when you visited in Los Angeles you could do it in 8. Well, you thought Sonny and figured Sonny was great. How come you did it in 6 or 7? You did it in 7.
I had him going in 8th. I was getting ready to take him in the 8th, as you can see. But the man stopped it just to keep from making me look so great.
I see. Now, give us that poetry on number 7.
He wanted to go to heaven, so I took him in 7.
You took him in 7.
I am the king of the world.
Hold it.
I'm pretty.
Hold it. You're not that pretty.
I'm a bad man.
Wait.
There you go.
Oh, man. As only he could do it.
It's 61 years ago today, 1964. 7-1 underdog Cassius Clay beat Sonny Liston to claim the world heavyweight boxing title. And after the fight, matter of fact, just seconds after, we just heard him, he was yelling, "I shocked the world, I shocked the world." And the next day, what happened?
Changed his name.
Yes.
To Muhammad Ali.
Converted to being a Muslim.
Yeah,
And,
said Cassius Clay was his slave name, and Muhammad Ali was his name. And, of course, many people, went both ways on that. And it was, it was interesting. But one of the great showmen of all time, one of the great boxers of all time, humanitarian as well.
Yep.
Helped to get some people home from time to time on behalf of the government. Was an interesting guy because you could find a little bit of everything with Muhammad Ali. He was just one of those kind of guys, kind of the Donald Trump of boxing, so to speak. Maybe that would be a way of comparison. I don't know. Anyway, but a great, great man in a lot of different ways. Although if you ask servicemen at that time, when he did not go to Vietnam, many servicemen had different thoughts about that. So certainly a controversial person as well. Well, one guy who's not controversial is Walt Oakham. And York Computer is the place that I go. And yes, we used to call it York Computer Repair, but it's now York Computer. You can find them at yorkcomputer.net, which is a new place to go. And they are a group out there, yorkdigitalbodyguard.com as well. And Walt's here to explain all that for you this morning as he joins us this hour, being brought to you, by the way, by York Computer Repair, located at 2069 Carlisle Road in York. Again, www.yorkcomputer.net. Open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You can call them at 717-739-9675. But, Walt, when it comes to your digital bodyguard, you guys are getting it done over there at York Computer, right?
Yeah, good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Walt. Great to have you in this morning, and great to have you sponsor this hour throughout the course of the year. We're really honored, to have you as part of our team. But you're also on a mission that you tell people about every week, and tell people about that today.
Yeah, we're on a mission to protect our community's computers, and one of the tips for today is for small businesses. You maybe are already protecting your computer, but you have online accounts such as your Office 365 and your Google Workspace. Those online environments can be protected and monitored as well. So if you're looking to make sure those important accounts are protected, we can help you with that as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I came across a problem this past week, Walt, that I was really frustrated with because I couldn't get on the internet here, and it wasn't anything that anybody had done, but it was a really kind of complex matter. It was interesting. Nate over at your place found it when someone else with a similar thing came in, and Nate figured it out. It took some time, but it works perfectly now. But sometimes those problems that we have, not only small business, but also individual here, because we're kind of a small business too in this, happen. And it was amazing all the work you guys put in to figure that out, and now it works perfectly, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad we could get you fixed up there.
It was an interesting thing because when Nate was trying to fix it, he said, I can't figure out what's going on here exactly. He said, it's not something that you did, which is the first. Usually I have the ability to push exactly the wrong button, to screw things up in exactly the wrong way, to come up with exactly the wrong outcome. But he said, it wasn't you on this one. He said, it was just something that was built into the computer, and we had to figure it out. And another guy brought it in, had exactly the same thing, and it had to do with something that was put in there in 2022 that now had to be changed with a new update. And who would have known that? But you guys do. You guys jumped in on that right away, and really, that's the thing I love about your computer, that you guys are willing to go the extra mile to find the answer and help people to be happy when they leave your store.
Yeah, well, it was a complex issue with some of the hardware on the computer, and it didn't have to be shipped out and going away for a week.
No.
We fixed it right here on site and got it back to you same day.
Well, and so many times people don't see their computer for a while, and then they say, oh, yeah, it's in the mail. You're going to get it. Not at Your Computer Repair. I mean, you guys go at it with a sense of urgency that I love. Tell me about the new branding with Your Computer now. It's not Your Computer Repair anymore. What led you to that kind of branding?
Well, as we're focusing on managing and protecting computers, we still do repair, obviously, but it's our new shorter name. It's easier to find, yorkcomputer.net, and it's kind of designed for the future of York Computer.
And you're still at the same place, 2069 Carlisle Road, out in the Shiloh area. People can still go to York Computer Repair, but one of the places you go to now is yorkcomputerrepair.com. You can get help there, or you can go to yorkcomputer.net too. So you have a couple different places you can go to get some help, right?
Absolutely. Yep. We have just a shorter domain name. It's easier to find and easier to say.
And of course, you're open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The phone number stays the same, 717-739-9675. or you can stop by. And don't forget, if you go online, you can actually get help right there. And the one thing we talk about all the time, you can remote into homes and help people there as well, right?
Yep, we have our walk-in service. If you'd like to drop off your computer, we can remote in, and we can even come to you on site.
It feels good to have peace of mind, right, Walt?
That's what we're trying to achieve.
And that's what you get at your computer. Give them a call today and tell them Gary Sutton proudly sent you, 717-739-9675. Walt, thanks for all you do for the community. Thanks for being a sponsor on our show here. It's an honor to call you partner, and we appreciate every week being with you. We'll talk to you again next week about this same time, same place, all right?
Thanks, Gary. Take care.
Walt Oakham and all the good people at York Computer, that's the new name, 717-739-9675. Tell them Gary Sutton proudly sent you. Coming up next, Jamie Norpel, the York County Safety Collab. And, man, it's never been more important to hear from them than it is this morning, especially after the events this past weekend. And you'll find out what they're doing to help with some of the things that are happening right now with safety in our community. All here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Jamie Norpel, straight ahead. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show, brought to you this hour by York Computer, 717-739-9675. You can find them at yorkcomputer.net, open Monday to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and they are ready to help you. It feels good to have peace of mind. When it comes to your computer, do it with York Computer, located right out there at 2069 Carlisle Road in the Shiloh area of York. I'm Gary Sutton, and welcome back. I also want to remind you that obviously, with the death of Officer Duarte the other day in the UPMC shooting, we're going to be having lunch this week, not on Wednesday at Yanni's Gyros at 310 Town Center on Laux Road in West Manchester Town Center. That's going to be this Thursday at 12. We'll be having lunch there, and I'm doing it on Thursday because I want to remind you that Yanni's will be giving 20% of all sales that day to the family of Officer Andrew Duarte in his honor. There'll also be a basket for sympathy cards out there that they're collecting and a container for donations. If you can't stop for lunch or dinner or whatever, you can maybe give a donation in his honor that day. They're going to be doing that at Yanni's this Thursday. They're open at 11 o'clock, and they'll be open until like 9 o'clock that night, and you can stop at any time during that time. I'm going to be having lunch out there, and I'm welcoming all of our listeners to stop by and take part and help out with honoring Officer Duarte that day. Again, a great loss to our community, and we're trying to remember him. I also know that today, and again, there may be other places too, and we're going to talk about some of that in a moment here. I know Moonlight Cafe out in the Dover area, right on Route 74, is giving a percentage of their sales today to Officer Duarte and his family in honor of him and in memory of him. And that will be throughout the day today. They open at 11 o'clock this morning. Moonlight Cafe, great Italian food, but whether it's carry-out or whether you're dining in today, they are giving a portion of that, their profits today and a portion of their take today to his memorial. With that this morning, we turn to Jamie Norpel, who is the head of the York County Safety Collaborative, doing a lot of great work. And I can't think of a better time to talk about what we're doing with safety in our county than this morning with Jamie. Jamie, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Gary. We're hanging in there. How are you?
Doing pretty well. I know what happened at UPMC this past weekend on Saturday is of great concern to you, and you've been doing an awful lot of things to help coordinate some responses here and what you're doing. Tell people a little bit about what's going on now since Saturday with the York County Safety Collaborative and what your role has kind of been in that regard.
Thank you, Gary. We are organizing a community effort to support Officer Duarte's family and the 3 police jurisdictions that were involved, as well as the UPMC nurses. So we have a number of different things in the works that people can go out to support. One of the ones I want to push the most is to purchase a flag. So people can go and donate on our website. They go to yorkcountysafetycollab.org. You'll see the very front page. There's an option to go and donate. We ask that people specify if they want it to go to Officer Duarte's family or some of our other police initiatives. And we're keeping track of all those donations. And Gary, we're getting, over 100 donations I checked last night.
Wow.
So a huge thank you to the York County community and the surrounding area and people who have donated because of that money, I'm now able to go buy gift cards because there's family coming in from out of town that are staying in a local hotel. And I'm going to go buy gift cards for the local restaurants so they can go and have a meal together. So that money is directly benefiting the family. Also on our website, there's a link to go purchase T-shirts and flags, and all the proceeds, again, goes to the family. But I want to specifically highlight the flags. So right now, sorry about that, you can imagine my phone's kind of been pretty busy here.
Oh, we understand.
So the flags, so the police right now, they are hurting. I'm telling you, got off the phone yesterday with all 3 police chiefs, and internally they're managing.
Yeah.
And those guys are used to triaging, but this is going to be long-term, trauma recovery from this. And so I would love for people to go and purchase these flags. They're $50 for a 3x5 and hang them up to show our West York Borough officers that we are here for them, that we feel with them, as well as all the other police officers across the county. So again, they can go to yorkcountysafetyclub.org. There's a banner at the top for them to purchase these flags. And I would love if businesses, if restaurants, if residents, if people could just hang these flags to show support.
I was talking yesterday with Chief Lash from the Northern Region. Of course, they had an officer who was wounded in this whole thing. And Chief Lash made that point that you just made, that we don't think about police sometimes as being people. Well, obviously, when someone loses their life, when we see somebody out there getting wounded, when we see people standing up there from 10 different police organizations involved on Saturday, and it's not a normal thing where you're shooting at somebody. It's not a normal thing where someone's killed and maybe you're the one that took the life. And so what comes after, it's not a normal thing when you see one of your colleagues go down and die or be wounded. And so the mental toll that it has to take on you afterward has got to be something that's extraordinary, that most of us would never, ever have experienced unless we were in war or something like that. And I think that's a point that really needs to be pounded home this morning here, Jamie.
Oh, yeah. And if someone wants to, reach out to us and talk about this, we're going to need some serious wellness checks on these officers. And that is going to range from, the department taking care of them. Like, for example, one of the police departments, all the wives band together and made a meal train to support one of the officers and his family, things like that. But we're going to need long-term counseling support for these officers. I know one department, there's an excellent book that I encourage everyone to read called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. It's a pretty short read, and it is phenomenal. There's one police department that's ordering enough for their entire department to read because it's a great look at what happens to the mind when you're a police officer, both as a person, an officer themselves, but then also as someone like me or you who care about police that want to understand what it's like for them. They can read this book. So we're also trying to raise money to purchase enough books we have 481 municipal police officers and an additional 110 sheriff deputies. If we can purchase books for them, and again, I know that's not, we're eating the elephant one bite at a time, right, Gary?
Right.
There's tons of ways that they can get involved. But yeah, we need to think about our officers' mental health.
It's Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, that name of the book?
Yep, and they can get it on Amazon. We are not getting any royalties. It's just a very, very good book. And when you go on, I forget the author, but it's yellow and it's red and white the cover.
Got it. Okay, so Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, YorkCountySafetyCollab.org. You can go purchase T-shirts and flags, and we'll help to let those officers know what's going on out there. You also have places there you can go in and actually donate. So go into that website, YorkCountySafetyCollab.org, all one word. I was thinking about you, Jamie, the other day after all this happened, and I thought all the things you've talked about over previous weeks here on our show, that we look at the proactive, we look at the preventative, we try to think about what we need to do. We read about this gentleman the other day who caused all this. We read the letter by Lester Mendoza in Facebook about the fact he was talking to this guy 2 days prior, had no inkling that this might have happened. This guy had a person there in hospice and who died, and some of the people who worked at the hospital were talking to him, including Mr. Mendoza. And then he came back and he inflicted this horrible, horrible act. I was thinking about you because you're trying to get out there, and it draws extra scrutiny now to what kinds of things the York County Safety Collab is doing. Talk a little bit more about that, if you would.
So back when I first came on, we talked about TAMS, the Threat Assessment and Mitigation Team,
Yes.
and that is a group here, multidisciplinary team that's led by the FBI that's looking at people that hold the possibility of committing mass attacks. This gentleman was not on our list.
Right.
A part of the reason is that this was I don't want to say a freak accident, but here we have someone who is hurting. I think the medical professional's Facebook page that you referenced, the post that he put,
yes.
I think articulated it perfectly about how our mental health and our healthcare system is broken right now. Because what we do is we're looking at people who are demonstrating predictable behaviors to try to thwart them before it happens by providing support and structures so that people develop pro-social activities instead of going down the pathway to violence.
Right.
This guy snapped. And so when we're looking at long-term solutions, countywide for this, of course, the TAMS team, we're going to have to beef up how people are put on the list and what happens to those people. And I hope, Gary, in another couple of weeks, that initiative needs funding. And so I'm going to talk to you more about that in a couple of weeks. But right now, thinking about UPMC and their security efforts and what they're going to do to try to prevent this from happening, but also we need to have a training where fire and EMS and police all practice together. Right now, that doesn't happen very often. We haven't really had an attack like this in New York County. I mean, the last time an officer was shot and killed on duty was in 1969, right?
Wow.
It's been 50 years. So we're trying to get this kit, this active integrated response kit, to York County. It's got a pretty hefty price tag on it, but what it does is it allows fire and EMS and police to all co-train. So when an incident like this happens, there's already a level of consistency and communication because they've already worked together.
When you look at this, my wife works at the other hospital, WellSpan, and I said to her yesterday when I got home, she got home, I said, it was the security different day? She goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, she said it was. You could really tell it was heightened security. And apparently, like the metal detector, I don't know if it had been used before or if it was even working, but it was back in operation yesterday, and there was a heightened awareness. I suspect, and I don't know this for sure, that UPMC probably had heightened awareness, heightened security yesterday in the first day of the work week. What else? What are some other lessons that we're going to? And again, we're in a time right now we're recovering emotionally and all that kind of stuff as a county and as a community. But just a final thought this morning, Jamie. What are some other areas that are probably going to start to be talked about more coming out of this in trying to make our community safer?
Yeah, it's funny, and you're talking, you remind me of my amazing husband, Luke. Whenever I come home with my problems, he just tries to fix them, and sometimes I just need him to hug me and tell me it's going to be okay, right? And so right now, the community, people are mobilized. This is fresh. People are thinking, what can we do now? But I'm actually going to ask people to not think that quite far ahead yet.
Yep.
His funeral is on Friday.
Yep.
And so I'm going to ask that people right now simply, like when I need my husband just to hug me, I need you guys to wrap your arms around the police right now.
There you go.
Whether that's sending letters or sending money to the safety club so we can support them that way.
Is it too early to talk about the upcoming funeral and so forth? I know there's been some work done on that as well, Jamie, so I don't want to jump the gun here, but I just wanted to ask you that question.
So there has been some press releases sent out. So I've been working pretty closely with the family, and I don't want to disclose anything that hasn't been public yet. So I believe Julie Wheeler yesterday, as well as Mayor Malk from West York, they put out a press release. So they should be able to follow that and go on Facebook, and that should give the updates. But yeah, the funeral will be on Friday. That's what I can disclose right now.
And we'll let it go at that. And Jamie, thank you this morning for handling this tenderly. I appreciate it. And again, I hope people will go to YorkCountySafetyCollab.org. That's York County Safety Collab, COLLAB.org, where you can go purchase T-shirts, flags. You can get information on how to donate. And again, support your people out there right now, the police and all those people, because they really need your help right now as much as we need each other's help. And maybe just give a hug every now and then. Jamie, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. Bye.
Jamie Norpel here, head of Logos Works and head of the York County Safety Collab. And important in our community that we just love each other a little bit right now. How about that? 8:48 here on WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show. When we come back, some final stories, some final thoughts, all here on WOYK.
Check it out.
I wish I
guess it must have been my fate to fall in love with someone else.
That's what I was saying to Mark this morning. I wish I had never met you after you said no ketchup on hot dogs. It was just like, it was just an emotional moment for me.
Air is the love.
Roberta Flack.
Yes.
And what was the guy sang with her on that?
Donny Hathaway. They actually
Great
had a
combo.
couple. They did The Closer I Get to You. I think they also had a big hit with. So she will be missed, no doubt about it. Great voice. And she wasn't the only person we lost yesterday. And you made mention of it earlier. And there was a FBI agent who had died. And this is a guy... You might not think, well, what do I know about FBI agents? Well, check out this story.
Clint Hill became part of the infamous images from Dallas, Texas on November 22nd, 1963. He was the Secret Service agent who leaped onto the back of JFK's limousine as it fled following the historic shooting. Hill died Friday at age 93 at his home in Belvedere, California, more than 6 decades after the assassination. He said the events haunted his memories, telling others he blamed himself for Kennedy's death, adding he did not react quickly enough. Hill co-authored several books, including Mrs. Kennedy and Me and 5 Presidents. The 1993 Clint Eastwood movie In the Line of Fire was also partly inspired by Hill. Tom Graham, Fox News.
He thinks he didn't react quickly enough?
Yeah, he said that. He was the only guy to really get to the back of that car. Jackie Kennedy, the president's wife, crawled out on the back, and it was like she was trying to gather pieces. His head was...
Right,
was
if you
terrible.
saw...
And she was out there crawling, and the car was starting to speed up to head to the Parkland Hospital, and Clint Hill leaped off the car behind him and ran like crazy and leaped on the back of the car, pushed her down in the seat, and covered her and the president with his body the whole way to Parkland Hospital. So,
But I mean, JFK was dead by then.
He was, it was for all intents and purposes, it was over at that point. And he probably reacted as quickly as anyone.
Yes.
And there's been all kinds of conspiracy theories over the years on everything. But Clint Hill is not a guy that you would have ever thought was the guy that...
it was all his fault.
Yeah, it was never, ever. I don't think anybody ever, in any of the readings that I've made, ever would have said that. He was certainly a hero in that moment and trying to do the right thing. And so anyway, that was a big one. So Lester Holt is stepping down at NBC after 10 years there. We see Joy Reid was forced out at MSNBC with her show. We see Dan Bongino, who is took over for Rush, is still doing the the 12 o'clock show there on
our old station.
On our old station, is going to be becoming the assistant FBI director. He has had some experience. He used to be on the Secret Service detail, I think, under
Kash Patel.
He was on there.
He was on the
under
Secret
Obama.
Service.
He was actually on the Secret Service detail then. So he's going to be stepping off his show eventually there to do that.
So what is the lesson here? The lesson is there are no more traditions?
I think school's out for traditions as far as hiring people. I mean, you saw the guy from Fox becoming the Secretary of Defense.
Hegseth.
Pete Hegseth. And again, do they have some experience? Yeah, they do. You just never think of people going into of course, we got a president of the United States that was head of a TV show. So The Apprentice. So you've got, it's a different time. There's no question about it.
How about this?
Go ahead.
How about this tradition, which is also being upset?
Go ahead.
Start spreading this news. The only time New York Yankees fans will hear Frank Sinatra's theme from New York, New York at home games will be after the Yankees win, a tradition since 1980. Just a couple of days after the most storied franchise in North American pro sports with the most widely recognized team logo around the world announced it would scrap a strict facial hair policy that dated to 1976 to allow uniformed personnel to grow well-groomed beards, the 27-time World Series champs announced another change. At all Yankees home games, when the Yankees lose, Sinatra's New York, New York will not be played anymore through the stadium. Other songs by the chairman of the board will, like That's Life, which made its debut Sunday after a Yankees exhibition loss at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, Florida. Jared Max, Fox News.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly right.
It makes sense.
Well, anyway, coming up tomorrow, we've got a great show coming your way tomorrow. We got Michael Gear, president of the Pennsylvania Family Institute. You can find him at pafamily.org. And he gets into all kinds of things that are happening with the family and how all the various policies that we're doing now, some of the changes are occurring. We'll talk a little bit about some of that pettiness thing tomorrow that I was talking about today. And then at 7:05, Jeffrey Coleman, who is a co-host of Morning Light, he'll be with us tomorrow to do some of that and talk a little bit about some of the issues that are happening around us right now. The idea of some of the international stuff and some of the political stuff. Mark, you had
I was just going to letting you know we've got a minute to go.
A minute to go, and then we've got Ryan Fox, and I'm hearing a lot of stories about the economy right now. Things in Europe
up and down
aren't bad. Things in some other places, but here they're kind of we're questioning. Are some of the policies really resulting in some of the outcomes that we're desiring? We as the president and we as the country and we as citizens. And Ryan Fox will take a look at that tomorrow. He'll also be giving you some tips tomorrow as well on your finances and some things that you can do. He always does that each week. That'll be at 7:35. At 8:05, Julie Wheeler with us, the president and commissioner of York County. We'll talk a little bit about what happened this last week at UPMC. She may have some updated information for us on what is coming up in terms of the funeral and remembering Officer Duarte and the other people that were involved. And then Aaron Anderson at 8:35 tomorrow, also on that whole thing. We thank you today for joining us. Hope you give everybody a little hug today, a little thank you, a little love. Never hurts. And check and see how your neighbors are doing, right? I'm Gary Sutton for Martin McKenzie. It's been a great day being with you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. It is 9 o'clock.